Chapter 513. King Kong No. 2 was the upgraded version of King Kong No. 1 and had been equipped with many weapon systems. A huge revolving gun was aimed at Lan Yu and Marshall. Da-da-da! The muzzle of the gun turned, and the bullets poured out like water, shooting toward the two people. The moment the gun turned, the two of them jumped to the side. Lan Yu leaped and jumped onto Warrior No. 2's arm. The bullets couldn't hurt her at all. King Kong No. 2 turned its head and stared at the enemy on its arm. With a caw sound, a black cannon barrel suddenly appeared on its shoulder. Boom! A cannonball shot towards Lan Yu. Lan Yu's figure was like a willow catkin as she lightly dodged and floated onto King Kong No. 2's shoulder. A pair of slender hands grabbed onto the cannon barrel. Bang! The cannon barrel was directly pulled away. With a flash of light, the cannon barrel in Lan Yu's hand was like a crutch as it ruthlessly smashed towards King Kong No. 2's head. King Kong No. 2's huge head tilted and sparks flew everywhere. Its huge body swayed and almost fell backwards. King Kong No. 2's fighting strength was originally not limited to this, but because this space was not big, it was restricted. Lan Yu was originally strong and relied on her nimble movements, which was why King Kong No. 2 was so passive. Lan Yu's face was calm, but the calmer it was, the more terrifying it was. "Hand over Tang Zheng or I'll tear this big guy apart," Lan Yu said. "Tang Zheng is already dead. If you want to find him, go to the underworld," someone shouted. Lan Yu's expression finally changed when she heard this. She gradually became gloomy, as if a layer of frost had formed on the surface of a calm lake. "You guys killed him?" "Yes. To go against the dragon group, you will die without a burial ground." "You dare to kill him?" Lan Yu's brows gradually revealed a killing intent that was as cold as a steel blade. "Impossible. How could you possibly kill Tang Zheng?" Marshall's heart felt empty for no reason as he shouted in panic. "Humph, if you don't believe it, go to the underworld and reunite with him. Then you will naturally believe it." The dragon group was aggressive. King Kong No. 2, kill the two of them. Roar! Vajra No. 2 let out an angry roar and got down on all fours. With a sudden swing of its body, it threw Lan Yu off. Then, it bent its front legs slightly and kicked off its hind legs, pouncing towards Lan Yu. Lan Yu didn't retreat or dodge. She slowly raised her arm. Compared to Vajra No. 2's huge body, her arm was like a small stone compared to a giant rock. However, her aura was not weak in the slightest. She stood firmly in place, like a sea-stabilizing needle in the sea, unmoving. She raised her arms to her chest as Vajra No. 2 pounced in front of her. In the next second, she felt as if she would be bitten into pieces by that huge mouth. Everyone's eyes were fixed on her. The members of the dragon group were delighted. This attack was definitely going to succeed. Just now, the Vajra No. 1 had not unleashed its full strength, which was why it was in a passive position. Wu's heart also jumped to her throat. She really wanted to rush forward and block this attack for her master's wife, even if it meant sacrificing her own life. However, she found that her legs were no longer flexible. She turned pale with fright. It turned out that the aura that her master's wife had displayed had completely intimidated her, causing her movements to become sluggish and her muscles to stiffen. After practicing martial arts for so many years, she had only felt this kind of aura from her master. However, the aura that her master's wife had displayed was not weaker than her master's. Vajra No. 2 came to a halt, just like a speeding sports car that had suddenly come to a halt. It stopped right in front of Lan Yu. What was going on? Everyone was stunned. The members of the dragon group were even more stiff. Their complacent expressions were still hanging on their faces, but their mouths were already wide open. Hand. Those with sharp eyes immediately noticed that there was a hand in front of Vajra No. 2. It was a very slender hand, but in everyone's eyes, this hand was filled with endless power, causing their expressions to change. Break! Lan Yu's red lips slightly opened as she spat out a word. However, this word was earth-shattering. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, rumbling and reverberating in the air. Before everyone could understand what was going on, they saw a crack spreading from the fingertip. In the blink of an eye, Vajra No. 2's metallic head was filled with cracks. Boom! With a loud explosion, this huge head exploded into pieces of metal, scattering in all directions and smashing onto the members of the dragon group. However, they were still in a daze. This was because they were already stunned. Their brains had temporarily lost the ability to think. Was this still a human? Many people were thinking about this question in their minds. However, they were quickly awakened by the sound of Vajra number 2 falling to the ground. Everyone stopped in their tracks. Although they were not far from Lan Yu, this short distance was like a natural moat that no one dared to cross. In fact, no one even dared to try to take this step. Lan Yu lifted her leg and walked towards the crowd. The other party immediately retreated to the side, fearing that they would not be able to make it in time. Marshall followed her master's wife step by step. It was like a dream, but there was a person's figure that was becoming more and more familiar in her heart. She silently muttered that she must find Tang Zheng. The two of them walked to the center of the base and passed by the huge workshop where mechas were assembled. Lan Yu did not even look at it. In the end, the two of them arrived in front of the bottomless black hole. The black hole was like a bloody mouth that devoured people, causing people to feel fear. Lan Yu stopped for a long time. Her eyes gradually dimmed. She faintly sighed and turned around to leave. Marshall hurriedly chased after her and asked, "Mistress, is there really no hope? That hole is so deep that I can't see the bottom. I don't know where it leads to. Even if I were to fall in, I would still die without a doubt, let alone him." Lan Yu said listlessly. "Then if we can't find him, how can we prove his identity? I'm going to ask your master. He should have a definite answer. If he really is my child, I will come here again. At that time, it won't be just a mecha, but the entire base and these people will be buried with my child." His tone was cold and murderous. Just hearing it would make people tremble in fear. Fortunately, her voice was not loud and the others were hiding far away from her. Otherwise, they would have been even more frightened when they heard this. He couldn't help but recall the bits and pieces of his acquaintance with Tang Zheng. Especially the skin-to-skin relationship in the 10,000 huge mountains. It was even more deeply etched in his memory. Back then, although she tried her best to forget that matter, it was like a nightmare that was deeply imprinted in her mind. It would appear from time to time. After all, she was a girl. Of course, she would remember the first time in her life. No matter how hard she tried, it was impossible for her to forget. On the contrary, the more she wanted to forget, the clearer she would remember. Now that he was dead, she should have been happy. After all, she used to wish that she could eat Tang Zheng alive. However, she found that she was not happy at all. She was listless, as if all the strength in her body had been sucked away. She left with her mistress like a walking corpse. Seeing the two figures swagger and disappear into the vast desert, the dragon group seemed to have awoken from a dream and was completely boiling with excitement. When Xiaofan, who was far away in the capital, heard this news, he was so angry that he spat out a large mouthful of blood. When he found out Wu's identity, he was unable to restrain his anger, and wished that he could immediately find the martial sect to get back at him. However, he was already past the age of impulsiveness. In the blink of an eye, he gradually suppressed his anger and turned his attention to another person. He had searched through all kinds of information, but there was no information about this person. This made him very frightened. Such a heaven-defying expert was actually wandering under the information of the dragon group. This made him feel a deep sense of fear. However, he was sure that the other party was from the martial sect. This made him feel even more mysterious and powerful. Originally, he was full of confidence that he could contend against the three great organizations and even pull them down from their divine altar. But now, he realized that his thoughts were too naive. Although the dragon group relied on its powerful resources and scientific and technological strength to allow its overall strength to soar, it was still a short time after all. If it wanted to contend against a deep-rooted organization like the three great organizations, it was still quite a distance away. No wonder after Li Xiaotian saw the strength of the dragon group, she did not feel the slightest bit of fear towards Xingfeng. Instead, she wanted to leave and did not have the slightest bit of reluctance, because she had this kind of strong confidence, firmly believing that the dragon group was not a match for the Li Palace. Thus, from the beginning to the end, she had only used the dragon group and did not truly put the dragon group in her eyes. The reverence she usually showed was all an act. Xingfeng immediately felt a deep sense of powerlessness and humiliation, but this feeling did not last long before it turned into another kind of belief. He urgently hoped that the dragon group's strength would rise to another level and suppress the three great organizations. He wanted this proud, mysterious organization to be ruthlessly trampled by him and trampled under his feet. As soon as possible, increase the fighting strength of the other Vajra. Xingfeng gave the order. Furthermore, Immediately carry out repairs to the base and increase the security. We absolutely cannot let outsiders take advantage of this opportunity. Ding-ling-ling. Suddenly, the red landline beside his seat rang. His heart trembled as he hurriedly calmed himself down. This number could only be called by a few people, and these people were his backing. However, just as he placed the phone beside his ear and listened to a few words, his face became extremely gloomy as he said in fear and trepidation, "Tang Zhang is indeed dead, but the life-continuing pill did not completely follow him. I will make a military pledge. Within 10 days, I will definitely deliver the life-continuing pill to you." Xing Feng's voice was sonorous and powerful, with some of the aura of a soldier. However, the seductive manner in his words was incompatible, completely lowering his imposing manner. After hanging up the phone, he took a deep breath and frowned. "The higher-ups are urging me for the life-continuing pill. If I am unable to take it out, then the position of the leader of the dragon group will be in jeopardy." Suddenly, a strong sense of crisis welled up in his heart, making him realize a serious problem. Although it seemed that he had great power now and had countless elite soldiers in his hands, all of this was given to him by the people above him. As long as the higher-up said a word, all of this would be taken away and he would become a penniless fellow. No, I must firmly grasp the dragon group in my hands, so that no one can take it away from me. If those old fogies can do whatever they want, why can't I, Xing Feng, do the same? His face was ruthless as he gritted his teeth. He silently made up his mind and many different thoughts appeared in his mind. Chapter 5:14. Once, twice, thrice. Tang Zhang could not remember how many times he had climbed up the wall of the cave, but every time, he would get lost. Fortunately, he had made marks along the way so that he could return the way he came. Several people stared at him with wide eyes, their eyes filled with anticipation. Tang Zhang secretly sighed and said encouragingly, "There is always a way out, we will definitely find the exit." "But those people are definitely still guarding the cave entrance. Aren't we just walking right into a trap?" Tang Dahai's spirit had recovered quite a bit but his eyebrows were still filled with worry. "There is no one who can stop us," Tang Zheng firmly said. "Little Zheng, this time this matter is too big. You are making an enemy of the country. If you go out, where can you go? Could it be that you are going to escape abroad and live your life as an exile?" Tang Dahai worriedly said. Tang Zheng understood his grandfather's thoughts. People from the last century, especially the elderly, most of them had a pure heart and many times were even more important to the country than their own life. Tang Zheng's series of actions in the eyes of the old man could be considered treacherous, but he was worried about his grandson's feelings so he did not say it out loud. No matter what, he had to dispel his grandfather's worries. Thus, Tang Zheng was not in a hurry to taste it, but instead sat down cross-legged and said, "Grandfather, I was raised by you since I was young, how could I do such a thing? The dragon group does not represent the country, but rather it is controlled by evil people with ulterior motives, harming the innocent. What I am doing is beneficial to the country and the people." The old man was skeptical. Tang Zheng's gaze turned and stared at Kai Guibin and said, "Commander Kai, say something fair, am I really betraying the country by doing this?" Kai Guibin hesitated for a moment, then lightly shook his head. Tang Dahai was extremely moved as he asked in bewilderment, "Is that true?" He knew that Kai Guibin was a government official, so he was especially interested in his words. Kai Guibin deeply looked at Tang Zheng and said, "The government officials are not all good people, there are also parasites, and these parasites all represent their own personal interests, ignoring the country's interests. Fighting with these people is indeed beneficial to the country and the people." Immediately, Tang Dahai truly let out a sigh of relief. The heart that was originally in his throat finally returned to his stomach. Between his brows was a bit more relaxed and happy as he said with some lingering fear, "Then I can be at ease. I was just worried that little Zhang would go down the wrong path." Tang Zheng gratefully looked at Kai Guibin. Kai Guibin's expression was lonely, the corner of his mouth hung a bitter smile. He was probably the only one present who felt the most desolate. He was the second in command of the dragon group, but he had become an abandoned pawn. This feeling of abandonment made him feel at a loss. "Commander Kai, after we go out, if you are interested, I can introduce you to another place," Tang Zheng said. Kai Guibin bitterly smiled, not saying anything, he did not take it seriously. Since these holes are innumerable, No matter how we climb, we will get lost. Why not use a more violent method and destroy all these holes, then walk up step by step? His heart was happy, thinking that this was not a bad idea, so he had everyone hide under Gui Qian Sui's turtle shell. With a thought, he prepared to summon the four symbols venerables. This big guy's destruction was simply like the help of the gods. Suddenly, his eyes widened in surprise, staring blankly at the four symbols venerables that were left in the sumeru bag and were connected to each other. But he was completely unable to summon the four symbols venerables, as if there was an invisible force suppressing them, not letting them come out. What was going on? Tang Zheng had never encountered this kind of situation. It was simply inconceivable. Could it be that there was a problem with the sumeru bag? But just as he took out the food from the sumeru bag, he hurriedly tried to take out the food. With a thought, the food appeared in his hands without any problems. Strange, only the four symbols venerables were affected. Why was it like this? He hurriedly voiced his doubts, and the others also found it inconceivable. Feng Shishir held her chin with one hand, thinking hard. Suddenly, her eyes lit up, and she pointed around saying, "Could it be that this place restricts the four symbols venerables from appearing?" "This place? I don't feel anything special about this place," Tang Zheng said suspiciously. He did not feel the fluctuations of a formation here, which meant that this place was the same as any other place. There was no power that could restrain the four symbols venerables. "Tang Zheng, you're wrong. This place is definitely not simple. Have you ever seen any landform like this?" Feng Shishir persisted in her opinion. Her words enlightened him, and Tang Zheng suddenly realized. That's right, he had only been focused on finding the way out, and had overlooked the uniqueness of this landform. It was impossible for this kind of situation to occur in a natural landform. There might really be a way out among all these holes. Just now I went to quite a few forks, and I found that the deepest part was magma, and only the bottom of that hole had a clear spring. This is something worth investigating. He finally realized that he had overlooked an extremely serious problem, and hurriedly took out the seed. The green light swam around the surface of the seed, mysterious and beautiful. Everyone's attention was immediately drawn over, and they gathered together to carefully examine the seed. When they heard Tang Zheng's description, they felt even more amazed. This seed is definitely not simple, but what kind of seed is it? Kai Guibin muttered to himself. "Captain Kai, I have a question. Why was the base built above this cave? There are hidden dangers here. Aren't you afraid that the base will collapse?" Tang Zheng noticed another suspicious point. Kai Guibin shook his head blankly. "I only found out about this base after joining the clan's dragon group, so I don't know the answer to your question. In short, there's something strange about this place." Squeak squeak. Suddenly, Xiaobai weakly called out. The little guy had swallowed too much magma, and it had turned into a round ball, lying on the ground, unable to move. Looking at its naive appearance, Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh. He bent down and picked it up, patted its little head, and comforted it. "Xiaobai, in order to save us, you really worked hard this time." Xiaobai, however, acted as if it didn't hear anything, and its pair of eyes stared blankly at the green seed. "Xiaobai, this is not delicious, you can't eat it." Tang Zheng had experienced the nature of the little guy's gluttonous nature, and hurriedly said. Xiaobai was indifferent, and still stared at the seed in Tang Zheng's hand. Suddenly, Xiaobai opened its mouth, and bit down on Tang Zheng's palm. Tang Zheng had never been on guard against Xiaobai, and was suddenly bitten by the little guy's 2 rows of sharp teeth. The sharp teeth directly embedded into the palm, and blood immediately flowed out, dyeing the palm red. Seeing this, the others were shocked and shouted, "Tang Zheng, quickly let it go, it's dangerous." Xiaobai didn't let go, but looked at Xiaobai in puzzlement. He and the little guy had been together for a long time, and Xiaobai had helped him a lot, and even saved his life. He trusted Xiaobai from the bottom of his heart, and didn't think that it would harm him, so even if it was painful, he endured and looked at it suspiciously. Xiaobai took a bite and let go, still staring at the seed. The blood had already dyed the seed red, and a trace of red light lit up, enveloping the seed, and the crystal-clear green color swam faster. The blood on Tang Zheng's palm was absorbed by the seed in an instant. Suddenly, Tang Zheng felt a burning pain in the palm of his hand, and quickly let go of his hand, and the seed immediately fell to the ground. Kacha! With a crisp cracking sound, the seed hit the ground and broke open, and a green light rushed out, and the whole cave was illuminated by the green light. "Look, The seed has taken root and sprouted. Feng Shishir pointed to the ground and cheered. This is really amazing. The seed absorbed Tang Zheng's blood, and actually broke through the soil and took root, turning into a bean sprout-like seedling. Amazing! Amazing! Tang Dahai and Kai Guibin couldn't help but exclaim. But immediately, Tang Zheng's exclamation also sounded, "Wow, what a strong vitality!" In the past, when he was at the peak of Ordinary Balance Mountain, and even in the 100,000 Great Mountains, he had seen much stronger spiritual energy than the outside world. Spiritual energy is the source of a cultivator's power, and Tian Chanzi once said that this world's spiritual energy has become very thin, so most people's cultivation will be very slow. The world's spiritual energy is less and less the more it is used, unlike oxygen which can be synthesized through photosynthesis. Therefore, later on, the cultivation environment left for cultivators will be worse. But what made Tang Zheng's heart beat fiercely was that the spiritual energy emitted by this little seedling was much denser than any other place he had seen before. It was simply a feeling that made it difficult for people to breathe. Feng Shishir took a deep breath, and her handsome face was also full of surprise, and said dumbstruck, "This is spiritual energy?" The two of them were too familiar with spiritual energy, and they used the spirit gathering pill to make up for the lack of spiritual energy, and then they accidentally obtained spirit stones, so they were more familiar with this kind of pure spiritual energy than ordinary cultivators. But whether it was the spirit gathering pill or the spirit stones, there was no way they could compare to the spiritual energy emitted by this little seedling. This was simply a spiritual energy fountain, continuously emitting outwards, and even Tang Dahai and Kai Guibin's spirits were shaken, as if they were a few years younger. The spiritual energy entered their 8 extraordinary meridians, and removed many of the impurities that had been left in their meridians over the years. To them, this was a kind of transformation of their bodies, and although the two of them didn't understand this point, they still felt refreshed and comfortable, and suddenly looked at Tang Zheng at the same time. Seeing Tang Zheng staring at the little seedling, they also fixed their eyes on the little seedling. Was all of this brought about by this little seedling? Before Tang Zheng could react, a cheerful voice sounded in his mind. "Master, what a strong spiritual energy. Ling is too happy." This was naturally the 300-year-old ginseng, Ling. At that time, she said that she would soon transform into a human, so Tang Zheng put her in his sumera pouch, but he didn't expect that this strong spiritual energy would penetrate the sumera pouch, and even Ling absorbed it. Linger's laughter was like a burst of silver bells, crisp and pleasant to listen to. Chapter 5:15. Hearing that Linger was about to transform into a human, Tang Zheng hurriedly took her out of his sumera pouch. In the flower pot, Linger was shining brightly, emitting a light green light. When the others heard that the ginseng was about to transform, they were all moved and stared at her. Hua hua hua. Linger's branches and leaves swayed back and forth, emitting a pleasing sound like a silver bell. Linger's giggles rang out incessantly, making people involuntarily feel her joy. Whoosh, the spirit energy emitted by the sapling was quickly absorbed by Linger. The branches and leaves were full of green, tender and beautiful, and the light green light became brighter and brighter. Finally, with a flash of light, the cave was completely enveloped by the green light, so bright that people subconsciously closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes, everyone was dumbstruck. A charming person stood in front of them, wearing a long green dress. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her skin was whiter than snow. She was full of spirit energy from head to toe. "You are Linger?" Tang Zheng calmed down a little. He did not think that Linger would be so beautiful after transforming into a human. Linger delicately nodded, and directly hugged Tang Zheng's arm, happily saying, "Master, I am Linger." A pair of towering breasts rubbed against Tang Zheng's arm, making people restless. Tang Zheng dryly coughed twice, and without leaving a trace, pulled his hand out of her chest and said, "Linger, congratulations." All of this is Master's credit. If not for following Master, Linger would not have this kind of opportunity. Linger charmingly said, "You are really Linger. How did you become such a beautiful girl?" Tang Dahai felt that all of this was like a dream. It was hard to believe. Linger bounced in front of the old man, and cheerfully said, "Grandfather, Linger can help you do things in the future. You don't have to work so hard at home." Tang Dahai beamed as he stroked her hair and said, "Good girl." Kai Guibin sighed in his heart. This Tang Zheng's luck was too great. Even a stalk of ginseng could transform. This was completely a ginseng spirit, a legendary spiritual object. Linger gradually calmed down. Her gaze locked onto the little seedling as she muttered to herself. This little seedling's spiritual energy is too strong. It's like the legendary Tree of Life. The others were stunned when they heard this and quickly asked, "What is the Tree of Life?" Linger said, "The Tree of Life is the origin of all living things. It is said that it was a magical tree that existed since the beginning of the world. It is the ancestor of all plants. The Tree of Life contains powerful spiritual energy, and it will continuously emit spiritual energy to improve the natural environment, allowing the world to have more spiritual energy, making it more suitable for survival." Tang Zheng turned pale with fright. This Tree of Life was too powerful. Now the natural environment was bad, and the spiritual energy was thin. It was not suitable for cultivation. If this was really the Tree of Life, then the natural environment would be greatly improved in the future, and the spiritual energy would gradually become abundant. Wouldn't cultivation be twice the result with half the effort? This was simply the good news for the cultivators. He looked at the little seedling in disbelief. Did it really have such a strong power? Linger, how did you know about this? This was a matter of great importance and could not be careless. Tang Zheng naturally had to ask clearly. This was what grandfather told me. Grandfather said that our ancestor was the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life had disappeared for many years, so the spiritual energy was getting thinner and thinner. Linger replied. Grandfather said that the Tree of Life was a towering tree with luxuriant leaves. I wonder when this little seedling will grow to such a size. As the voice fell, the two leaves of the little seedling swayed. A green light soared into the sky and extended towards the cave above. Several people subconsciously retreated. They were shocked by this scene. But the transformation of the little seedling did not end there. The little seedling rapidly grew and instantly became as thick as a bucket. The leaves also became very huge and crazily rushed towards the cave above. Furthermore, it was still growing. It wouldn't take long before it would fill up the entire cave. Everyone would be crushed to pieces by the terrifying roots. Climb up the tree trunk, quick! Tang Zheng's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He carried his grandfather up the tree trunk, and the others also jumped up. Xiao Bai and Gue Qiansui also lied on the tree trunk, and along with the growth of the tree trunk, they quickly rushed up. Looking down, the cave was already filled with the tree trunk, and the little seedling had already grown into a towering tree. Many roots grew out from the tree trunk and drilled into the surrounding caves. In a short while, those caves were filled up. Tang Zheng, as if awakened from a dream, exclaimed, I know, these caves were originally the Tree of Life's growth. No wonder they are so well connected. This must be caused by the growth of the roots of the Tree of Life. The others' eyes lit up and agreed with this judgment. Doesn't that mean we can see the light of day again? Feng Shisher was overjoyed. We are on the main trunk. Don't fall down. The Tree of Life will definitely break out of the ground. At that time, we will be out of trouble. Tang Zheng reminded. Everyone's spirit was greatly lifted. They tightly grasped the tree trunk and quickly rushed up. Fortunately, Tang Dahai had already experienced everything before. His spirit muscles were already very big, otherwise, he would definitely be scared to death by this battle. The tree trunk exuded a faint green light, dispelling the darkness along the way, allowing people to clearly see the roots spreading out from the trunk, making its roots incomparably solid in the cave. We have reached the top. Tang Zheng looked at the steel floor not far above his head and reminded, Hold on tight. Tang Zheng had a hunch that the seemingly solid steel bar would not be able to stop the tree trunk. Sure enough, the sound of ripping silk rang out. With a gotcha, the steel plate was penetrated. The tree trunk went straight through, but it didn't stop there. It continued to press forward. Boom! A large hole was also pierced through the dome of the base, and the base shook violently. After Lan Yu's torment, the base was already in a mess, and everyone was in a panic. Suddenly, they found that it was as if there was an earthquake, and they could not stand up. They could not help but turn pale with fright and cry out. The base was in a complete mess. Boom! Another loud sound rang out, and the tree trunk pierced through the layers of yellow sand, breaking out of the ground and arriving at the surface of the desert. Tang Zheng and the others lay on the tree trunk, and finally saw the light of day again. They were all overjoyed. However, the tree trunk did not stop at all. It was as if it wanted to pierce through the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it grew several hundred meters tall. Moreover, it did not only grow vertically, but also horizontally. Many branches grew out from it, and densely packed leaves covered the branches. The tree of life was like a large umbrella, blocking out the dazzling sunlight and enveloping the space within a radius of over 1,000 meters. Just as Tang Zheng thought that the tree of life would continue to grow and soar into the sky, the growth suddenly stopped. Everyone lay on the treetops, looking at each other. What do we do now? Feng Shishir asked. Look at the ground. Tang Zheng pointed below. The ground was sparsely scattered like ants, and there were many members of the dragon group gathered there. These people were looking up at the treetops, and their faces were dull. You guys stay on the tree, I will be back soon. Gui Qiansui, protect them well. Tang Zheng ordered. Although he had escaped, Tang Zheng did not plan to leave. The dragon group and Li Xiaotian had tricked him, and he almost died underground. How could he leave so easily? Learning from his mistakes, Tang Zheng's mentality had changed quite a bit. In the past, he still felt that it was a pity for those sophisticated weapons. But now those weapons were in Xing Feng's hands, and the more sophisticated the weapons were, the greater the threat to Tang Zheng. In for a penny, in for a pound, then I will mess with your base, and make you, Xing Feng, feel heartache. Tang Zheng slid down the tree trunk, and before the enemy could react, he had already landed on the ground. Looking at this extraordinary person, many people woke up from their dream and shouted, "Kill him!" Tang Zheng's movement was much faster than them. In a flash, he had already sneaked into the base, and went straight to the center. He just happened to see Xing Feng's image appear on a huge screen, and immediately, he swaggered over. When the others saw this, they all rose up to resist, but they were all defeated by Tang Zheng. Xing Feng was flustered and exasperated. He could only watch all of this happen, but he was powerless to do anything. He could only shout hoarsely, "Tang Zheng, you are not dead? How can you not be dead? Xing Feng, are you disappointed? Just you wait, no matter where you are, your free and unfettered days don't last long." Tang Zheng said with a murderous aura. You dare to destroy my base? You are going against me, against the country. You will definitely die. Xing Feng roared with an ashen face. You can only represent yourself and the backers behind you. You can't represent the country. Don't give me a big hat. Tang Zheng said disdainfully, this time, I will destroy your base. Let's see what else you can use to go against me. As soon as he finished speaking, he grabbed a chair beside him and threw it fiercely towards the screen. Xing Feng was so scared that he subconsciously took a few steps back. With a loud bang, the screen shattered, and the image flickered a few times before turning pitch black. Tang Zheng walked out in large strides, heading straight for the weapon warehouse and workshop. When he saw all kinds of sophisticated weapons, he summoned the heaven-shocking bow and the shooting sun arrows. Wang! The bowstring trembled, and the shooting sun arrows flew out, piercing through the shells of the 3 weapons and equipment. With a few rumbling sounds, the weapons and equipment turned into flames. In the end, he stood in the middle of the huge assembly workshop. One by one, the giant mechs were not yet completed, but they were already gradually revealing their brilliance. With a leap, he jumped onto a mech, grabbed the other party's head and tore it off. Following the same pattern, the mech's limbs were torn off and turned into a pile of scrap metal. The huge workshop turned into ruins in a moment. However, Tang Zheng also discovered the remains of King Kong No. 2. When he saw its exploded head, he couldn't help but be puzzled. This big fellow had been destroyed during the battle. He didn't know who was so powerful to be able to destroy it. He didn't investigate further and leisurely left the base. No one stopped him. Without Xing Feng around, these people were nothing to be afraid of. Standing under the tree of life, he stared blankly at the towering tree. He could clearly feel that there was an additional life force in the desert. Kacha! Chapter 5:16. Thunder in winter was not normal. Moreover, this bolt of lightning was thick and bright, as if it wanted to turn the tree of life into charcoal. A ball of green light rose from the top of the tree and met the lightning head-on. With a loud bang, the silver and green lights intertwined in the air. It was gorgeous and dazzling, completely overshadowing the light of the sun. Tang Zheng discovered something strange. There were no clouds in the sky, and the sky was clear for thousands of miles, so why was there lightning and thunder? How strange. Kacha! Gotcha! Before he could figure out this problem, 2 bolts of lightning streaked across the sky and landed on the Tree of Life. These bolts of lightning seemed to have a mind of their own and would not be satisfied until they cut down this towering tree. Whoosh! The green light soared into the sky, and half of the sky was dyed green. 2 huge bolts of lightning flashed wildly, trying to break free from the green light, but found that it was futile. In the blink of an eye, the lightning disappeared. The green light exploded in the sky like fireworks. It was incomparably dazzling and turned into specks of green light. Walala! It started to rain. It was a downpour. It was rare for it to rain in this desert, and it was impossible for it to rain in this cold winter. But at this moment, it was raining heavily. Moreover, the sky was bright, and there were no dark clouds at all. No one knew where the rain came from. Tang Zheng felt completely different. When the rain fell on his body, he could clearly feel traces of spiritual energy contained in the rain, slapping on his skin. Ordinary rain could not contain spiritual energy, but this rain was clearly not ordinary rain. It was formed by the explosion of the green light. The Tree of Life is really magical. It's really magical. Tang Zheng exclaimed. The other ordinary people did not have such sharp senses. They only saw the sudden rain in the clear sky and could not help but feel a sense of novelty. Tang Zheng did not waste this gift from the Tree of Life. He quickly circulated the ancient Clear Heaven Scroll and Dragon God's secret art. The 2 cultivation techniques immediately displayed their magical effects. 2 vortexes formed above Tang Zheng's head, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth frantically poured into his body. Like a whale sucking in water, the spirit qi in Tang Zheng's body rapidly increased and was transformed into true qi, filling up his 8 extraordinary meridians. A golden light suddenly blossomed from his body. As the amount of spiritual energy he absorbed increased, he finally turned into a golden man. The heavy rain stopped, and so did Tang Zheng. The golden light grew thicker and thicker until it finally transformed into a small golden dragon. It shook its head and wagged its tail as it drilled into his mind and disappeared into his forehead, leaving behind a golden mark. This imprint was very faint, but upon closer inspection, one could see that it was a golden dragon head, full of dragon might. Tang Zheng was stunned. After absorbing this spiritual energy, the divine dragon art had unknowingly broken through to the 2nd layer. The divine dragon secret art had a total of 6 levels, and it was a cultivation technique of the dragon clan. Moreover, the divine dragon secret art was very difficult to learn at the beginning. In the past, it was not easy for him to reach the 1st level of the divine dragon secret art. After that, the divine dragon technique did not make any progress for a long time, so he temporarily neglected this technique. However, at this moment, he actually made a breakthrough, and there was an additional golden dragon in his mind. This little dragon had 2 dragon claws, and it was awe-inspiring. It was branded on his forehead, and he wondered what was so special about it. I'll ask the 5-clawed golden dragon when I reach the capital. He suppressed the curiosity in his heart and looked at the treetop. He waved to the others, and they quickly slid down the tree trunk. Let's leave this place first. During this period of time, the old man had been frightened, so Tang Zheng wanted to settle him down first before going to find Xing Feng to settle the score. As for the Tree of Life's mysteries, since this tree grew here, it would not run away. He could carefully study it later. Kai Gui Bin was hesitant. Captain Kai, you have already become Xing Feng's abandoned pawn. Do you still want to stay here? You should be clearer than me on what the consequences will be. Tang Zheng lightly said. Kai Gui Bin had been in the system for so many years, so he naturally knew what would happen if he stayed. With Xing Feng's style, he would definitely push all the blame for this failure on him. Maybe he would kill him first and report later. The dead tell no tales, and even if the higher-ups wanted to investigate, they would have no way to do so. Kai Gui Bin compromised and deeply looked at the devastated base. He originally thought that his career would take a big leap here, but he never thought that this place would become his Waterloo. He was disheartened. The few of them left the base, but the people of the Dragon Group were still in shock. Everything that happened today was completely beyond their imagination. But the miracle did not stop. The rain moistened the yellow sand, and a cool breeze blew by. Traces of green came out from the yellow sand. Look! Someone cried out in surprise. Everyone looked at their feet, and in a short while, the yellow sand was filled with green. Grass came out from the yellow sand, turning it into a grassland. A desert turning into a grassland. This was something that no amount of technology could do. But at this moment, it was done in an instant. If this was not a miracle, then what was? Everyone raised their heads to look at the tree of life. Without a doubt, this miracle was bestowed by it, and it was the credit of the rain. The tree of life's crown covered over 1,000 meters of space, turning the ground into a lush green. It was a stark contrast to the yellow soil of the other places, like an oasis in the desert. The people of the dragon group looked at each other. The base was destroyed, and they were like dragons without a leader. They did not know what to do. Rumble! A military transport plane flew over their heads, and parachutes bloomed in the sky like flowers. A group of people landed lightly on the ground, and the person in the lead was Su Yingtian. Su Yingtian stood under the tree and gave off a powerful aura. His subordinates surrounded him and looked at the people from the dragon group with vigilance. However, these people were also shocked by the miracle. Su Yingtian looked at the tree of life, and he was speechless for a long time. Just now, he was about to return, but he suddenly saw a towering tree rise from the ground, and lightning flashed. Such a huge scene immediately attracted him back. But when he saw this miracle with his own eyes, he understood that the shock in his heart was far beyond his imagination. As the director of the National Security Bureau, he knew more secrets than many people such as this base. In the past, this base was built because it was in the desert, and it was suitable for secret weapons research and development, and it was not easy to be discovered by the enemy. Another important reason was that they accidentally found a big hole in the desert. The hole was so deep that they could not see the bottom, and it was scattered crisscrossing, and they did not know what was below the hole. The country was very clear that there were many miracles in the land of Wuxia, so they immediately began to research the hole to see if they could find anything useful. Therefore, this base settled down here, and successfully covered up the hole. However, after several generations of research, they still could not find the secret of the hole. They only knew that the hole was so deep that they could not see the bottom, and the hole was so crisscrossed that the researchers had no way to explore it. In the end, they had to give up, and the hole was sealed, and the relevant researchers withdrew. But another function of the base was retained, and that was to research secret military weapons. This country had many similar research bases, and they were scattered in every corner of the country. There were traces of these bases in the desert, lakes and mountains, and ordinary people would not know about them. Su Yingtian looked at the towering tree and guessed that this might be the thing that the researchers were looking forward to discovering. But why did it suddenly appear in this world today? What's going on here? He was in the sky just now, and did not see clearly what had happened, so he signaled his subordinates to capture a member of the dragon group. The other party was still in shock and stammered, "Tang Zheng, all of this started because of him."
Tang Zheng?
Su Yingtian originally thought that Tang Zheng was dead, and his plan had failed, and a sense of defeat shrouded his heart. But he did not expect that he was completely wrong. Tang Zheng had given him a big surprise. But what did this tree have to do with Tang Zheng? Where was Tang Zheng? He wanted to find him and ask him clearly, and find out the ins and outs of this tree. After asking around, he found out that Tang Zheng had already brought his people away. Thus, he immediately gave the order that he must find Tang Zheng and protect his safety at all costs. He was very clear about what Xing Feng would do when he went berserk, so of course he could not let Xing Feng succeed. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked into the distance. Two people walked out from behind a sand dune. His pupils suddenly shrank as he stared at the two of them. The two of them were strolling leisurely, but in the blink of an eye, they actually closed the distance between them and arrived in front of him. When the members of the dragon group saw the two of them, they subconsciously retreated. Their expressions were filled with fear, and their hearts were filled with lingering fear.
Martial sect?
Su Yingtian recognized Martial, but he did not know anything about the beautiful young woman beside her, and could not help but frown. Lan Yu raised her head and stared at the tree of life. She took a deep breath and said, "What a dense spiritual energy." Spiritual energy was something that ordinary people could not sense. Although Lan Yu was a martial artist, her realm had already reached a certain level, so she could clearly sense the spiritual energy in the air. However, she was not like Tang Zheng, who could turn the spiritual energy into her own for her own use. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth has undergone a huge change because of this towering tree. It won't be long before the spiritual chi of heaven and earth becomes abundant. For cultivators, this is a great thing. She muttered to herself, Her mood and attitude could not be seen. Could it be that what should come is really coming? Back then, the cultivators were expelled. Could it be that it is time for them to return? Even the living environment has been unknowingly prepared for them. Hearing that, Su Tian's heart skipped a beat. He took a step forward and asked, "May I ask who you are?" Lan Yu did not even turn her head as she stared at the Tree of Life for a long time. After a long while, she turned her head to look at Su Tian and asked, "Tang Zheng is not dead. This is related to Tang Zheng, right?" Su Tian hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes." A hint of joy flashed across Lan Yu's face as she impatiently asked, "Where is he? I want to see him." Su Tian shook his head. "I don't know either." Chapter 5:17. Countless researchers rushed to the base. Looking at the Tree of Life, one could imagine the shock. The military had already listed this large desert as a military-restricted area. Satellites in space were monitoring it 24 hours a day to prevent foreign forces from spying on it. The research on the cave that had ended in failure was put on the agenda again. All kinds of research equipment were directly transported by plane. Not long after, various detection and research on the Tree of Life began. But what made the researchers helpless was that this towering tree emitted some kind of mysterious power. The space within a radius of 1,000 meters was covered by this power, and no one could get close. The underground base was also covered with the roots of the tree. Humans were simply unable to get close. This base was completely ruined. When Xiaofan stopped here and saw this scene with his own eyes, his face was ashen and he was speechless. This time, the dragon group had suffered heavy losses. He had already been severely criticized by the higher-ups. He was so cunning that he directly pushed all of this to Tang Zhang and Kai Guibin. He lied that Kai Guibin and Tang Zhang colluded and launched a sudden attack on the base, which led to the heavy losses. He did not rashly involve the National Security Bureau. After all, the National Security Bureau had developed for so many years, and its strength was not ordinary. Without absolute certainty, he would not fall out with the other party. The Marshall Organization and the National Security Bureau are involved, and this mysterious tree has appeared. Damn, everything has turned into paste. It's getting more and more chaotic. Xiaofan was not afraid of chaos. He was best at fishing in troubled waters. However, there was no place for him to use for the time being. Thus, he immediately returned to the capital. Without a doubt, he promised the backer behind him that he must get the life-continuing pill within a week. Otherwise, his position would not be guaranteed. There was a reason why the backer was so anxious. One of them was old and near the end of his life, so he could not wait to use the life-continuing pill to save his life. The end of the year was approaching. The capital, a big city with tens of millions of people, suddenly became deserted. The migrant workers gradually returned to their hometown. Xing Feng's car smoothly arrived at a secret club. Two people stood at the entrance of the club, looking forward to it. When they saw him get out of the car, the two hurriedly greeted him warmly. "Leader Xing is here." Looking at the smiles on their faces, Xiaofan also smiled from the bottom of his heart. "Young Master Song, young Master Chu, I've kept you waiting. Team Leader Xing is busy every day. It's only right to wait for a while." Chu Xiaofeng smiled shyly. Things were different now. The Chu family had already declined. Now that they were relying on the Song family, they were not immediately exposed. However, people with discerning eyes no longer liked the Chu family. Chu Xiaofeng had suffered a lot recently. Those who used to flatter him had gradually distanced themselves from him. He was like a god of plague. However, fortunately, Song Yu still brought him along to play, so he could still maintain his image as a young master. This time, Xiaofeng took the initiative to invite Song Yu and Chu Xiaofeng. Song Yu was not surprised, but Chu Xiaofeng was flattered and did not dare to put on airs like before. Looking at Chu Xiaofeng's expression, Xiaofeng was secretly pleased. In the past, he would always be careful when facing these aristocratic family disciples. For example, when he faced Long Tingyu in the past, it was the same. But now, these people from the big families had to be respectful and cautious when facing him. This kind of huge change brought about a great sense of accomplishment, and it couldn't be any better. He knew very well that all these changes were because he was the leader of the dragon group. Without the dragon group, he was nothing. These arrogant people from large families would not even spare him a glance. Both parties entered the private room, dismissed their attendants, and toasted each other happily. Not long after, they called each other brothers.
Sigh.
Suddenly, Xing Feng let out a heavy sigh. Song Yu understood the meaning of the song and asked cooperatively, "Big brother Xing's future is bright. Why are you sighing?" Xing Feng smiled bitterly and shook his head. "You two brothers might not know, but recently, I've been in a terrible state because of a matter. I'm afraid I won't be able to sit in this position for long." Big brother Xing must be joking. Other than you, who else can be the leader of the dragon group? Moreover, your results are obvious to everyone. Who can snatch away your credit? Chu Xiaofan fought for the injustice and said, "You two brothers are also straightforward people, so I won't hide it from you. A while ago, the life-continuing pill appeared in the capital. I'm sure you two are very clear about it, right?" Song Yu's pupils constricted slightly, revealing a hint of vigilance, but on the surface, he remained calm. Chu Xiaofan, on the other hand, had a face full of displeasure, and said indignantly, "Isn't it just something that Tang Zhang, that brat, deliberately put up for auction?" During that period of time, the Chu clan was in a terrible state and did not obtain a single life-continuing pill. The other three clans benefited, especially the Yan family, who obtained 5 life-continuing pills. That's right, it's the life-continuing pill that Tang Zhang created. I don't know where this brat got his luck from, but he actually managed to create such a heaven-defying pill. It's said that the effects are pretty good. The people above want this thing, so this mission naturally fell on my shoulders. Oh, then let's go find that brat. I don't believe he won't give it to us," Chu Xiaofan said as a matter of fact. Song Yu rolled her eyes at Chu Xiaofan, feeling a bit embarrassed. During this period of time, Chu Xiaofan only cared about eating, drinking, and playing. He did not care about anything else and did not even know about the struggle between Tang Zhang and the dragon group. Only then would he say such an amateur's words. Xing Feng's heart also flashed with disdain, thinking that this Chu Xiaofan was a hopeless fool. Now that his clan was in decline, he was even less useful. He turned his head to look at Song Yu. Song Yu understood and said, "That day, my family also obtained 2 life-continuing pills, but they were already used by my father and father. Otherwise, I would have given them to Big Brother Xing." This was purely a perfunctory speech. Of the 2 life-continuing pills that he had won, there was actually 1 left. One of them had entered the stomach of the Song family's patriarch, and the remaining one was a life-saving item, so it was closely guarded. Of course, this truth could not be told to anyone. Xing Feng did not look into the truth of his words and only pretended to be moved as he said, "If other people were as reasonable as little brother, then I would not be in such a terrible situation. To tell you two little brothers the truth, this Tang Zhang is a slippery loach. Wanting to force him to hand over the life-continuing pills is not an easy matter." That day, the one who obtained the most life-continuing pills was the Yan family. However, the Yan family was not as reasonable as the Song family head. They purposely kept the life-continuing pills for themselves and did not hand them over. This made me very passive. Song Yu's heart was filled with disdain, thinking that only an idiot would hand over such a miraculous pill. However, on the surface, she pretended to be angry and said, "The Yan family has always been arrogant. They don't even put our other clans in their eyes, but they actually dared to treat Big Brother Xing like this. They must have eaten the heart of a leopard and should be severely punished." Song Yu also understood the meaning behind Xing Feng's words. This fellow was clearly afraid of dealing with the Yan family alone. He wanted to rope in the Song and Chu families to deal with the Yan family. This way, their chances of success would be greater. The corners of Xing Feng's mouth curled up into a smile. It was easy to talk to smart people, and he knew that Song Yu had already guessed his thoughts. Thus, he no longer hesitated and went straight to the point. The Yan family is a big family, and they run amok. This kind of family should be eliminated. On the other hand, the Song family and the Chu family, who are so righteous, should become stronger. I think so too, but the Yan family is powerful after all, and it won't be easy for us to shake his position. However, if we have the help of the Dragon Group, I believe that this matter will be much easier. The other party finally revealed his foxtail, and Song Yu continued to speak as if he was beating a snake on a stick. "My 2 brothers are deeply righteous. Take this cup of wine as my toast to you. The dragon group has long disliked the Yen family. This time, let's join hands and definitely make the Yen family look good, Xing Feng said in high spirits. Song Yu and Chu Xiaofan raised their wine cups, and the three of them looked at each other and smiled. The Yen family did not know that a storm was about to sweep over them. Yan Qingyi quickly walked into her father's room and said impatiently, "Father, the heavens are clear. My previous prediction was not wrong. Tang Zheng's fate has not been changed." Yan Patian held his teacup, took a sip of tea, lightly smacked his lips, and said, "Tang Zheng has already escaped danger. The change in the heavens this time might be related to the newly appeared towering tree." The news about the Tree of Life had already reached the desk of the relevant personnel, and the Yen family was naturally one of the people who knew about it. Yan Qingyi, on the other hand, didn't know about the towering tree. After listening to his father's explanation, his eyes lit up, and he said, "It's most likely this tree that caused the changes in the mysteries of heaven." "What kind of tree is this? I want to see it for myself." "That place has already been sealed off by the military. No one else can get close to it." Yan Qingyi remained unmoved. "I will naturally find a way." After saying that, she left with large strides. Yan Patian stared blankly at the setting sun, and muttered to himself, "Tang Zheng, oh Tang Zheng, the Yen family has placed most of their chips on you. You better not disappoint me, otherwise, the Yen family's losses will be hard to estimate." Tang Zheng did not know about Yen Potion's worries. He brought a group of people and left the desert, heading back home. He did not hide from others and directly returned to Ordinary Balance's home. The blockade here had already been removed, and although there were still many police spies, no one dared to act rashly. Without the pressure of the Dragon Group, the Ordinary Balance officials did not want to touch Tang Zheng. After all, the impression of that battle was too deep, and no one dared to underestimate Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was not afraid that the people from the Dragon Group would come looking for him again. Without the mech, the super warrior was not his match at all. If Xing Feng dared to come to Ordinary Balance, it would suit him even more. He would not hesitate to let Xing Feng go underground to celebrate the new year. There was also an even more important reason that prompted him to return to Ordinary Balance. The old man still had too many old brothers in Ordinary Balance. In order to not let them worry, and in order to not let the neighbors gossip that Tang Zheng was an enemy of the country, he stubbornly insisted on returning to Ordinary Balance, using practical actions to dispel these people's concerns and rumors, allowing Tang Zheng to be a proper person, and not a criminal who had escaped. Chapter 5:18. There were too many legends about that battle. Tang Zheng's name, which was not particularly well known among the general public, had become well known in Ordinary Balance after word of mouth had spread. Many people suddenly realized that he was the previous provincial college entrance exam champion. The Takashi that had been widely publicized by the media was actually an imposter. In addition, the fact that Tang Zheng had won the martial arts conference championship made many people's blood boil. This could explain why Tang Zheng had been able to create such a huge commotion in Ordinary Balance. The lighting that night was not good. So many people still did not see the mecha and the four symbols venerable. They only knew that Tang Zheng had gotten into a fierce conflict with someone very powerful. Of course, the residents that night had seen these two big guys, but when they said it, it was taken as an exaggeration. No one believed it. All in all, the details of that night's events had only spread to a small area. The general public only knew that Ordinary Balance had produced a very impressive young man, Tang Zheng. It was said that he had gone against the authorities. Many people did not think that there was anything wrong with him. Instead, they felt that he had the style of a chivalrous hero from ancient times, daring to risk universal condemnation. When they heard that he had returned to Ordinary Balance and that the authorities had not arrested him, many people were full of admiration. They all wanted to pay homage to this modern chivalrous hero. The entrance to the Upper Wind and Upper Water residential area was blocked by many people, but the security guards at the entrance were determined not to let them pass. Speaking of Upper Wind and Upper Water, this real estate development company had also suffered a lot. Last time, Tang Zheng had gone on a killing spree, turning this place into a living hell. It had really frightened many residents. Since then, many people had moved out of the residential area, and no one dared to buy a house here. Today, when they heard that this killing god had returned, the people in the real estate company were even more restless. They were deeply afraid that Tang Zheng would put on another show. If that happened, their company would really be in big trouble. Before they could sit down, a guest arrived at Tang Zheng's house. Deng Maokai stood at the door, cowering. He didn't dare to look straight at Tang Zheng because he had been severely reprimanded the last time he leaked information and was almost suspended. Today, as soon as Tang Zheng returned to ordinary balance, he was sent by his superiors to find out what was going on. The local officials of ordinary balance already knew that Tang Zheng was involved in a power struggle between their superiors. Those who didn't know what was going on didn't dare to touch Tang Zheng rashly. "Director Deng, you're here. Please come in." Tang Zheng revealed a trace of a smile and warmly greeted him. Because of his information, Lin Hu and the others did not fall into the hands of the Dragon Group, so he had a good impression of Deng Maokai. Deng Maokai was overwhelmed by the favor and nervously said, "Young Master Tang, I'm really sorry about the past. I was only following orders, so I took action against Ordinary Balance's underground world." The strike-down operation had destroyed Ordinary Balance's underground world. Tang Zheng was the boss of the underground world, so Deng Maokai was naturally afraid that he would blame him. Tang Zheng didn't mind and waved his hand. "You don't have to take it to heart. Let bygones be bygones. Moreover, the underground world is after all illegal. Banning it will allow our brothers to walk on the right path. This is also a good thing." If it was in the past, Tang Zheng might be angry. After all, this was a foundation that he had single-handedly built. But now, he wanted to thank everything. The enemy was so quick to cut the Gordian knot and destroy this gray world. In the future, he would no longer be the boss of the underground world. That identity was no longer attractive to him. Instead, it was a burden. Everything he wanted could be obtained openly. He had the strength, so there was no need for him to do the opposite. His future career was on the right path. With sufficient funds and Mu Hongyan at the helm, he was completely confident that he could establish a business empire. This was much more meaningful than being the boss of the underground world. Deng Maokai looked at him with suspicion. These words were really out of his expectations. He couldn't judge whether it was true or false. After observing for a while and confirming that Tang Zheng wasn't angry, Deng Maokai sighed in relief and said, "Young Master Tang, this time you return to ordinary balance. Has everything been dealt with? There are some things that you don't want to know, so as to avoid bringing trouble to yourself." Deng Maokai shrunk his neck and understood. Understood. If young Master Tang needs anything in the future, please don't hesitate to tell me." Seeing Tang Zheng so calm, Deng Maokai's heart finally returned to his stomach. The stronger Tang Zheng was, the more benefits Deng Maokai would have. But seeing that the other party's family was reunited, he tactfully didn't disturb them and hurriedly said goodbye. "Chief Deng, there are so many people outside the neighborhood. Please deal with them." Tang Zheng didn't want to be a panda surrounded by onlookers. His principle was to keep a low profile. "Okay, deal with it immediately." Deng Maokai happily returned to report and sent people to disperse the onlookers at the entrance of the neighborhood. After Chongheng City's municipal government heard Deng Maokai's report, their hearts finally relaxed. It was almost the new year. If another incident happened, they wouldn't be able to keep their official positions. Of course, Tang Zheng was like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any time. They desperately wanted Tang Zheng to leave ordinary balance, but no one dared to order him around. Kai Gui Bin had already left. It was said that he went home to visit his family and made an appointment with Tang Zheng to meet after the new year. Therefore, only Feng Shishir and Linger were left in Tang Zheng's house. These two beautiful girls attracted a lot of attention on their way back. Linger and Feng Shishir had an extra touch of otherworldly temperament. They were like fairies that didn't eat the food of mortals. Both of them had their own merits. Looking at the two of them, Tang Zheng had a dazzling feeling. "Shishir, your parents are very worried about you. I'll send you home first," Tang Zheng said. Feng Shishir and Tang Zheng had been separated for a long time. Moreover, after experiencing this incident, it was even more difficult for them to part. She reluctantly said, "I'll stay at your house first. Otherwise, what if the people from the Dragon Group come? I want to go through thick and thin with you." Seeing the deep longing in her eyes, Tang Zheng couldn't bear to refuse. He nodded and called her parents to inform them. Then he stayed at home. "Master, where will Linger stay at night?" Suddenly Linger asked with wide eyes. She didn't feel guilty about being a third wheel. Tang Zheng slapped his head. How could he forget about Linger? This house only had 2 bedrooms. How could 4 people live in it? Feng Shishir originally wanted to whisper to Tang Zheng and do something intimate. But she suddenly realized that it was impossible. She couldn't help but feel a little dispirited. You and Shishir can live together. There was no other way. Tang Zheng could only arrange it like this. He could only temporarily ignore Feng Shishir's resentful eyes. Let's go buy daily necessities and clothes. We don't have anything at home. Feng Shishir suggested. Tang Zheng glanced at Linger's dress. This girl was unaffected by cold and heat. She was wearing a thin green dress that occasionally revealed her smooth white long legs. No wonder she attracted the most attention on the street. This was winter. Although it didn't snow much in ordinary balance, the temperature was only 4 or 5 degrees. Dressing like this was really called not caring about the temperature. Well, let's go buy clothes. Xiaobai, Gui Chen Sui, you two stay at home and protect Grandpa. Tang Zheng took the 2 beauties to the street. Suddenly, the number of people who turned their heads skyrocketed. Fortunately, Tang Zheng had already experienced the feeling of being the center of attention. Otherwise, he would definitely feel like sitting on pins and needles. The 3 people just arrived at the entrance of a shopping mall. Suddenly, a person jumped out from the side and blocked the 3 people's path. Tang Zheng's heart trembled. He wanted to attack the other person, but found that this person's face was somewhat familiar. He seemed to have seen it somewhere before. Wow, fairy. This image, this temperament, as gentle as jade. You're definitely the star of tomorrow. Kung Fu Bro, you really give me a big surprise every time. This beautiful girl. Hello, my name is AI Me. You can call me Sister AI Me. The other person spoke as if they were familiar with each other. His pair of eyes rolled around Linger's body. Looking at his sissy appearance, and a man calling himself Sister AI Me, Tang Zheng rolled his eyes and finally remembered who he was. In the beginning, after Tang Zheng won the martial arts convention, he was called Kung Fu Bro by the people on the internet. This sissy came to him and said that he wanted to package him into a star. Tang Zheng was not interested at all, so he ignored him. Who would have thought that this sissy would not give up and found ordinary balance? He really has perseverance. AI Me looked at Linger with shining eyes. After a while, she looked at Feng Shishir and said, this beautiful girl's temperament is also excellent. It's a different kind of beauty. She has a trace of intelligence. She will definitely become famous if she is carefully packaged. Kung Fu Bro. Now I finally believe that birds of a feather flock together. The people around you are too suitable to walk the path of a star. AI Me was very excited, but looked at Tang Zheng with a bit of bitterness. She sighed and said, but Kung Fu Bro, I have to say that you wasted your previous popularity. If you had debuted a few months ago, you would have become even more popular. But now it's not too late. With my sister AI Me taking care of everything, you will definitely become popular all over the country and go to the world. Feng Shishir and Linger were confused. They did not know what was going on and looked at Tang Zheng blankly. Stop. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He waved his hand and interrupted AI Me. You really are persevering. Why did you come here again? Isn't it all because of you? You really don't have a conscience. AI Me pointed at Tang Zheng and complained. Feng Shishir looked at the 2 of them strangely. If she did not believe that Tang Zheng was a normal man, she would have suspected that there was something going on between them. AI Me looked like a resentful woman who had been abandoned after having sex with her. Hey, you have to make it clear that I didn't do anything. Tang Zheng was speechless. Talking to this sissy is really infuriating. I was kind enough to want to keep you, but you avoided me and you still have the nerve to say that you didn't do anything. Hey, what do you mean keep me fuck? Looking at the strange gazes around him, Tang Zheng was embarrassed. He could accept being kept by a woman, but being kept by a man, he would rather die. Chapter 519. Tang Zheng didn't want to be surrounded like a panda. He grabbed one in each hand and strode towards the mall saying, I'm not interested in the dream of being a star, don't bother me. Hey, Kung Fu Bro, you can't waste this opportunity. Otherwise, It'll be hard to package you in the future. Besides, being a star is very profitable. AI Me hurriedly chased after him, unwilling to let the prey in her hands run away. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to her, but Linger turned her head to look at AI Me and curiously asked, "Master, are stars the people who sing on TV?" "People who sing are a type of star," Tang Zheng casually said. Linger's eyes lit up and exclaimed, "Wow, being a star and being able to sing is really great." AI Me was overjoyed when she heard this. She trotted over and said, "Beauty, your voice is very clear and has a lot of texture. It's very suitable for singing. In the future, you'll definitely be able to produce best-selling songs."
Really?
Linger asked innocently. "I promise." AI Me patted her chest. Sister AI Me will definitely fulfill her promise. When Tang Zheng heard this, his heart skipped a beat. AI Me used to like listening to songs. Because of this, she almost scared her grandfather. Could it be that she really has a soft spot for singing? Looking at her expectant eyes, Tang Zheng stopped and asked, "Linger, do you really want to be a star?" Linger opened her eyes wide and cutely said, "If being a star can sing, then Linger wants to be one." Tang Zheng frowned. Linger had a simple heart and was inexperienced. The entertainment industry was a big dive at. Linger was like a piece of delicious food. Those hungry wolves in the entertainment industry would not give up on her and would easily take advantage of her. Moreover, her identity was special. If she was not careful and her identity was exposed, then there would be even more trouble. When Linger saw Tang Zheng frown, she thought that Tang Zheng was angry. She hurriedly waved her hands and said in a panic, "Master, Linger is no longer a celebrity. I won't sing anymore. Master, don't be angry with Linger." As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes, making her look extremely pitiful. AI Me was shocked. This beauty actually called Kung Fu Bro Master and cared so much about his attitude. What is their relationship? Moreover, it wasn't easy for him to find such a promising future star. How could he let him go? Thus, AI Me hurriedly persuaded, "Kung Fu Bro, I'm sincere. I'll definitely make her popular." "Linger, don't be sad. I'm not angry." Tang Zheng tightly grasped Linger's hand and explained. Linger was relieved. She patted her chest and said with a smile, "Then Linger can rest assured. From now on, Linger will always be by Master's side and serve Master." These words were like the attitude of a maid without status in ancient times towards her master. AI Me's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. Even though Feng Shishir knew Linger's background, seeing her so dead set on Tang Zheng, she was also amazed. Beauty. People must have their own ideals and opinions. Moreover, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. AI Me did not give up and persuaded. He didn't believe that there was no girl in this society who didn't want to be a star. Being rich and famous is a good thing that many people can only dream of. But it was clear that Linger broke his fixed thinking again and again. Linger pouted and said impatiently, "I already said that I don't want to be a star. Why do you still want to persuade me? Do you really want Master to be angry with me? Humph, you're such a bad guy. I'm not talking to you." After saying that, she turned her head in a fit of pique as if she didn't want to see AI Me's face. AI Me was flabbergasted. In this modern society, there was actually someone who was so obedient to others. He felt like he had returned to the olden days. Moreover, Linger was such a beautiful girl. He thought with bad intentions. Could it be that Kung Fu Bro had some unusual training methods? If that was the case, then he would really be struck by lightning. To be so ruthless to train such a fairy-like person, how heartless would he have to be? AI Me had mixed feelings and was incomparably depressed. He truly understood what it meant to be defeated. In fact, he used to be a gold medal manager in the entertainment industry. It was because he once offended an entertainment tycoon that he ended up in this miserable state. He didn't have a single artist in his hands and finally found a gem like Tang Zheng. However, Tang Zheng had no intention of entering the entertainment industry. He originally thought that his luck would change today and he would pick up another gem, but he didn't expect to be defeated again. "No, I can't be looked down upon by those people. If I miss this opportunity, I won't have a chance to make a comeback. Out of these 3 people, I must grab one." AI Me silently made up his mind. He turned his gaze and stared at Feng Shishir. But before he could speak, Feng Shishir understood and waved her hand. Sorry, I'm not interested in the entertainment industry. Ah, Amy really wanted to scream. Do you still want me to live? Why is God so cruel to me? It was like a person who was about to die of thirst in the desert and suddenly saw a pool of water. But when he walked closer, he realized that it was a mirage. Everything was not real. How could this not make people collapse? Amy was in a daze. He looked at Tang Zheng bitterly and said, Brother Kung Fu, is there really no room for discussion? Tang Zheng glanced at Linger and said, Leave me your phone number. I'll go back and think about it. What made him change his attitude was the look in Linger's eyes. She was obviously too passionate about singing. She only had the opportunity to transform into a human after cultivating for so many years. Since she came to the world of mortals, if she didn't experience something she was interested in, wouldn't it be too boring to live? Moreover, Tang Zheng still hadn't thought of a way to arrange for Linger. Although she transformed, her cultivation wasn't high and she couldn't help him much. Why not let her live a happy life according to her own wishes? Who knows? Maybe she could really become a big star in the future. Hearing this, Linger revealed a trace of surprise, but there was a hint of joy between her eyebrows. Mi's expression was especially exaggerated. She was wild with joy and directly threw herself at Tang Zheng. She looked like she really had the urge to kiss and offer her body on the spot. Tang Zheng quickly dodged Mi's enthusiasm and said, You can go back. We still have to go shopping. Mi didn't mind at all and hurriedly nodded and bowed. This is my business card. You guys go ahead. Remember to think about it and call me. I'll be at ordinary balance for a while. Tang Zheng hurriedly brought the two beauties into a nearby clothing store. Feng Shishir and Linger were both clothes hangers. They could wear any clothes with a unique temperament, so clothes weren't difficult to buy. Seeing Linger enter the fitting room to change, Feng Shishir asked curiously, You really want Linger to enter the entertainment industry? The entertainment industry's reputation isn't good, but if she's interested, it's not impossible. Hee, you're quite accommodating to her. But such a beauty is really hard to refuse. You're also beautiful. Right, speaking of clothes, I prepared a special set of clothes for you. I'll give it to you when we get back. Tang Zheng said. You prepared a gift for me? Feng Shishir was overjoyed. What is it? You'll know when the time comes. Tang Zheng pretended to be mysterious. Hee, you know how to keep me in suspense. Did you also use this trick to trick other girls in school? Feng Shishir pinched the flesh on Tang Zheng's waist and said with a smile. No, absolutely not. Tang Zheng said with a straight face. Really? Feng Shishir smiled faintly. Yi Dingdang has been coveting you for a long time. Tang Zheng looked embarrassed. The matter between him and Yi Dingdang couldn't be explained clearly in a few words. Moreover, the two of them had experienced so many things together. Their relationship was really growing day by day. However, Tang Zheng wasn't stupid. He couldn't say that another girl was good in front of another girl. Suddenly, Linger walked out of the fitting room and circled in front of Tang Zheng. She happily asked, Master, do you think I'm beautiful? Beautiful. Tang Zheng instinctively wanted to praise her, but his eyes were fixed. Linger was wearing a light green woolen coat and a shirt underneath. However, there were two obvious protrusions on the shirt. It was very conspicuous. Linger didn't notice at all. Instead, she moved closer to Tang Zheng and asked, Master, is Linger beautiful? Protrusions. This scene was too exciting. Moreover, she was already quite open-minded, so this scene was even more prominent. Feng Shishir glared at Tang Zheng and hurriedly said, Linger, let's go into the fitting room. There's a big pervert here. What's a pervert? Linger innocently asked, but Feng Shishir had already dragged her into the fitting room. Tang Zheng let out a sigh of relief. This was a test of his endurance. Fortunately, there was no one else nearby. Otherwise, if they saw this beautiful scene, Linger would be at a disadvantage. Linger doesn't seem to have any underwear. The dress from before was a bit big, so I couldn't tell. Now that she's wearing this tight garment, her true colors are revealed. In the future, I must teach Linger how to protect herself. Not long after, Feng Shishir came out. Her face was red, and she quickly closed the door, as if she was afraid that Tang Zheng would peek. She glared at Tang Zheng and said, Just now, your eyeballs were about to fall out. You guys are really perverted. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He cried out that he had been wronged. He really didn't have any romantic thoughts just now. It was just pure shock. Watch over me. I'll be back soon. What are you going to do? Buy clothes. Seeing Feng Shishir quickly walk into a lingerie shop not far away, Tang Zheng seemed to wake up from a dream. She was going to buy lingerie for Linger. Master, did I do something wrong? Linger's voice floated out. She was a bit nervous. Linger, don't think too much. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why would Big Sister Shishir be angry? She even said that I should be on guard against you. You are Linger's master. Why would Linger be on guard against you? This little girl's brain simply couldn't understand these questions. Don't listen to her nonsense. There are many rules in this human world. You'll slowly get used to it in the future. Tang Zheng said perfunctorily. Oh, Linger is very stupid. Master, please don't despise Linger. Linger will definitely work hard and not be so stupid. Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh. Linger wasn't stupid at all. She just lacked life experience. After comforting her for a while, she finally stopped feeling uneasy. Feng Shishir also carried a bag of underwear into the fitting room. Tang Zheng couldn't help but think, without trying it on herself, how could she know the size? Could it be that she measured it with her hands? Chapter 5:20. When the three of them returned home, Feng Shishir would occasionally look at Tang Zheng with a strange expression. The sky was dark and the old man had already prepared dinner. The few of them ate together and Ling Er took the initiative to help clean up. Feng Shishir did not want to fall behind as in front of the elders. She could not be lazy. Little Zheng, come to my room. I have something to say to you. Tang Dahai called his grandson into the room and said sincerely. Little Zheng, after experiencing this incident, I know that your life is destined to not be ordinary. Grandfather is often your concern, so I will go to the countryside to find a place to live. This way, those bad people will not be able to find me and I will not be a burden to you. Tang Zheng did not expect his grandfather to say such words and his eyes widened in shock. He did not hesitate to deny. Grandfather, I will not let you go to the countryside. You have lived in ordinary balance for decades. Every blade of grass, every tree, every street, every building, you are familiar with it. How could I let you leave ordinary balance? But my goal is too obvious. I do not have the ability to protect myself and will only become a burden to you. The old man earnestly said. No, grandfather, you have never been a burden to me. You are one of the closest people to me in this world. Without you there would be no me. I will not let you leave. I want you to be happy and live a carefree life. If anyone wants to hurt you, I will definitely make them regret being born into this world. While speaking, his body involuntarily emitted a powerful aura. This aura combined with the aura of a dragon was especially intimidating. The old man could not help but have the urge to look up. I know you have filial piety, but... Tang Zheng immediately interrupted. No buts. Seeing Tang Zheng so determined, Tang Dahai helplessly let out a long sigh. It could be considered a compromise, but his heart was somewhat gratified. His grandson has been sensible since he was young. Now that he has grown up, he has his own opinions and is similarly filial. He is not like other people who raised an ingrate. When I was caught, Shishir did her best to protect me. If it were not for me, she would not have been caught. You must treat her well in the future. Tang Dahai warned. I understand. I don't know much about you young people, but you have to remember one thing. As a person, you can't have a guilty conscience. Otherwise, you will be criticized by others. Tang Zheng nodded heavily. Grandfather, I will always remember your teachings. Tang Dahai quietly stroked his grandson's hair and nodded with a gratified smile. After helping his grandfather to sleep, Tang Zheng gently closed the door, only to find that Feng Shishir and Linger were sitting on the sofa watching TV. Linger stared at the TV and asked Feng Shishir questions from time to time. She was full of curiosity about many things. Is Grandpa asleep? Feng Shishir turned around and asked. Tang Zheng sat beside her and casually hugged her waist. She twisted a few times and muttered, Linger is beside us? Linger's attention was on the TV and did not notice the intimate actions of the two. It's okay. Tang Zheng did not make a move. Feng Shishir did not escape from his evil claws and let him take advantage of her. The two reunited after a long time and experienced a life-and-death situation together. Feng Shishir's mind had always been tense. At this moment, she was completely relaxed and could not help but lean into Tang Zheng's arms. She felt particularly warm and safe. Their ears and temples rubbed against each other. Their bodies gradually warmed up. Feng Shishir's breathing quickened and her face flushed. She glanced at Linger, who was unaware of it, and felt embarrassed. If it were not for this third wheel, the two of them could have done a lot of things. I'm going to sleep first. Feng Shishir's heart was aroused. She even felt Tang Zheng's reaction. She was afraid of creating an even more awkward situation and quickly stood up. Tang Zheng also suppressed the charming thoughts in his heart and said, Linger, you should also go to sleep. Linger stood up obediently. Master, Linger is sleeping on your bed. Where are you going to sleep? I'll sleep on the sofa. How can that be? You should also sleep with me. I think the bed is quite big. The three of us should be able to sleep on it. Linger said innocently. Tang Zheng's head thumped. This girl's suggestion was too wild. However, it was obvious that she did not have such thoughts. Feng Shishir speechlessly rolled her eyes. She glared at Tang Zheng and hurriedly pulled Linger into the room. She was afraid that she would say something shocking again. Tang Zheng bitterly smiled and shook his head. He lay down on the sofa and covered himself with a quilt. In a daze, Tang Zheng found himself lying on a large bed. On his left was Feng Shishir and on his right was Linger. The two of them breathed out like orchids and wrapped around Tang Zheng like water snakes. Not long after, the three of them were naked. Tang Zheng was intoxicated by their attractive bodies. Suddenly, he did not know who pushed him. He found that the person in front of him disappeared. He opened his eyes in a daze and a beautiful face appeared in front of him. What are you talking about? Feng Shishir asked. So it was just a dream. That dream was too erotic. Looking at Feng Shishir, who was so close to him, he could not help but feel a little embarrassed. He actually dreamed of sleeping with her and Linger. This was too ridiculous, but it was quite exciting. This must be because the words that Linger said before she tried on clothes during the day left a deep impression in his subconscious. That was why he had this kind of dream. Do I really want to do that in my bones? Tang Zheng coughed in a low voice to cover up his embarrassment. He said in a daze. Nothing. Why are you up? I'm going to the bathroom. If there's nothing else, go back to sleep. Feng Shishir walked into the bathroom. Tang Zheng stared at the bathroom door. He did not feel sleepy at all. He heard the faint sound of running water and the evil fire in his heart gradually rose. He sneakily got off the sofa and walked towards the bathroom. He gently twisted the door lock. It was not locked and the door opened. What are you doing? Feng Shishir opened her mouth in surprise. Hee, I also want to go to the bathroom. Hurry up and get out. I haven't put on my pants yet. What are you afraid of? It's not like you haven't seen it before. Pervert, don't talk nonsense. Aya, what are you doing? Don't be naughty. How could he let go of a sheep that was already in his hands? Although the walls had ears, it could not stop the fiery passion of two young people. Moreover, most of the time, they were asleep. Tang Zheng decided to take the risk. Not long after, there was a slight panting sound in the bathroom. You pervert, bad guy. You only know how to bully people? After a long time, Feng Shishir tiptoed out of the bathroom. Her face was flushed and her eyes were like spring water. She was extremely flirtatious. Tang Zheng followed behind her with a smile on his face. However, Feng Shishir rolled her eyes at him. Seeing his proud look, she pinched his waist a few times and said coquettishly, You're getting bolder and bolder. It's love, Tang Zheng said with a smirk. Fortunately, we weren't found out. Otherwise, how can I face people in the future? Feng Shishir complained. It felt good just now. Why don't we do it again in the bathroom in the middle of the night? Get out, pervert. Feng Shishir suppressed her pounding heart and quickly walked into the bedroom. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, was satisfied as he lay on the sofa and fell asleep. The next day, just as Tang Zheng opened his eyes, there was a knock on the door. Knock knock knock. Tang Zheng jumped up from the sofa and rushed to the door. He looked through the peephole. It's not the enemy. It's Feng Shesher's parents. Uncle, Auntie. Good morning. Why are you here so early? Tang Zheng opened the door and looked at the two people curiously. Yesterday, when they came back, Ordinary Balance called them to inform them that Feng Shesher was staying at their house. But Xi Mengqin didn't sleep well last night. Her daughter escaped danger and didn't go back to her own house. Instead, she stayed at Tang Zheng's house. What was going on? Yesterday on the phone, she was about to get angry but was stopped by her husband. But after lying on the bed for an entire night, her anger burned even more fiercely. A girl who hadn't even married into the family yet was staying at the man's house. What kind of scandal was this? Although young people nowadays advocated freedom and the two of them had stayed together in the Feng family, they had already done what they should and shouldn't do. Xi Mengqin also adopted the attitude of opening one eye and closing the other. But this time was different. Feng Shesher stayed at Tang Zheng's house overnight. If the elders of the Tang family saw this, what would they think? Wouldn't they look down on her daughter? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Thus, she ran over early in the morning to denounce them. Where is my daughter? Xi Mengqin curiously asked. She's still sleeping. I'll go call her. Uncle, Auntie, come in and sit. Tang Zheng politely greeted. Feng Chonghua nodded towards Tang Zheng. He was more open-minded and didn't make a fuss over nothing like his wife. Moreover, when he saw Tang Zheng again, he found that the other's temperament had changed a lot. Imperceptibly, there was an additional sense of dignity. This was something that shouldn't be present on a 20-year-old youth. However, thinking about Tang Zheng's experience and ability, Feng Chonghua felt relieved. This cheap son-in-law of his couldn't be measured with common sense. I don't need you to call. I'll go see for myself. Xi Mengqin took large strides and rushed to the bedroom. The one on the left. Tang Zheng reminded. Bang! Xi Mengqin pushed open the door and suddenly stopped. She let out a scream and stared dumbfoundedly at the bed, unable to speak for a long time. Seeing this, Feng Chonghua immediately rushed over. Mengqin, what's wrong? Don't come over. Go over there. Xi Mengqin pushed her husband away but looked at Tang Zheng with eyes that were about to spit fire. She grabbed onto Tang Zheng's clothes and angrily said, Tang Zheng, so you are this kind of person? You beast, you actually dared to do this kind of thing to my daughter. I'll kill you. Finished speaking, she fiercely grabbed at Tang Zheng's face. Tang Zheng was shocked. What the hell? What did I do to make her so angry? He nimbly dodged Xi Mengqin's fingers and said, Auntie, if you have something to say then say it. Just what is going on? You still have the nerve to say it. You rogue, I really misjudged you. You caused my daughter to be so miserable. Xi Mengqin bitterly complained. Chapter 521. Tang Zheng was burning with anxiety, thinking that something bad had happened to Feng Shesher. Ignoring Xi Mengqin's attempts to stop him, he forcefully charged over. You're not allowed to look. Xi Mengqin loudly shouted. Tang Zheng had already seen clearly and let out a sigh of relief, but he did not know whether to laugh or cry. The large bed was laid out with two pairs of shining white thighs stretched out of the blanket, entangling together. It was truly a nosebleed scene. Without a doubt, Xi Mengqin had misunderstood. Seeing her daughter and another girl lying on the bed like this, she must have thought that Tang Zheng had slept with the two of them last night, and had a threesome. Feng Shesher and Linger were also woken up. Opening their sleepy eyes, Feng Shesher's face was especially rosy. Her lazy appearance was filled with boundless charm, clearly having been nourished. As an experienced person, how could Xi Mengqin not be clear? She firmly believed in her own judgment. Hating iron for not becoming steel, she glared at Feng Shesher and shouted, Shesher, come here. Feng Shesher sleepily rubbed her eyes and asked in a daze, Mom, why are you here? You still have the nerve to ask? How can you be so shameless? Xi Mengqin's eyes were red. She had painstakingly raised her daughter for 20 years. She was the standard young miss of a noble family. How did she become like this? Feng Shesher was confused and did not react. However, Tang Zheng had already come to a realization and hurriedly explained, Auntie, it's not what you think. I saw it with my own eyes. Is there a mistake? Tang Zheng, you're still young, so why don't you learn well? Don't think that just because you have a bit of skill you can play with girls. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. This big hat was placed on him too fiercely. How did he play with girls? Master, who is she? She's so noisy, making Linger unable to sleep. Linger squinted her eyes and acted like a spoiled child as she asked. Master? Ximingqin's eyes widened. Was this role-playing? Speaking of which, I'm already so old, but I've never played these games before. If this wasn't toying with a girl, then what was? The evidence was irrefutable, causing Ximingqin's anger to shoot up. She wanted nothing more than to kick Tang Zheng until he couldn't take care of himself. Feng Chonghua also walked to the door and glanced at her. His expression became especially serious as he said, Sure, put on your clothes and come out to talk. Bang! The door was directly closed by Ximingqin, and the rustling sound of clothes being put on could be heard. Tang Zheng, come over here. Ximingqin shouted. Tang Zheng walked up to the two of them, feeling wronged. What is this? I didn't do anything. This is 2F** King wrong. You're being ridiculous, Feng Chonghua couldn't help but say. Before Tang Zheng could speak, he saw Tang Dahai walk out. Little Zheng, what happened? Grandpa, why are you up? Grandpa, how are you? Feng Chonghua stood up and greeted Tang Dahai. Even though he was angry at Tang Zheng, he still maintained enough respect for Tang Dahai. The two of you are? Seeing that the other party wasn't an ordinary person, Tang Dahai couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy as he carefully asked. Ximingqin wanted to angrily rebuke Tang Zheng, but Tang Zheng looked at her as if he could predict the future. Her heart thumped as she felt a burst of fear, causing her to swallow her words. They are Shershir's parents. Tang Zheng gently introduced. Tang Dahai was shocked. Aya, honored guests, little Zheng, what are you doing here? Hurry up and greet the guests. There isn't enough food in the house, right? I'll go buy some ingredients and cook. You guys sit down and treat it as your own home. Tang Dahai became busy. Tang Zheng wanted to persuade him, but stopped. If his grandfather left, then he would be able to explain. Otherwise, his grandfather would definitely be worried. Feng Chonghua saw through Tang Zheng's thoughts, so he didn't try to persuade him. After the old man left the house, Feng Chonghua's face sank as he solemnly said, Tang Zheng, we don't object to you and Shershir dating, but you can't be so absurd. Even though my Feng family isn't a big family, we aren't a family that messes around. You! He hadn't finished speaking when Feng Shershir finished putting on her clothes and walked out. She pouted and said, Dad, what are you doing? She was also a smart person, so she finally understood why her parents were so angry. Seeing that Tang Zheng was wrongly accused, her heart ached. Sure. Don't interrupt. Listen to your father. Ximingqin said. You guys listen to me. You all misunderstood. It's not what you think. Feng Shershir anxiously explained. We saw it with our own eyes. How can we misunderstand? You don't have to cover for him. Feng Shershir angrily stomped her foot, her face flushed red as she said, Why don't you guys believe your daughter? You really are infuriating. Tang Zheng let out a long breath and said, Uncle, Auntie, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys really misunderstood. Look at the sofa. Last night I slept here alone. The two looked towards the sofa and the blanket. There were indeed traces of someone sleeping here. In the previous situation, the two had overlooked this point. You guys really didn't sleep together? Ximingqin doubtfully asked. Mom, what are you saying? How could we be that kind of person? Feng Shershir's face turned red as she wished she could find a hole to hide in. Tang Zheng awkwardly coughed. Last night didn't he have such a dirty thought? If he really did that, then he would have been caught red-handed. But who is that girl? Ximingqin asked again. Why did she call him master? Master Ling Er. Did she do something wrong again? Just as her voice fell, Ling Er apprehensively walked out and carefully asked. This master caused Ximingqin's temper to rise as this title was simply too uncommon in today's society. Ling Er, you go in first. It has nothing to do with you. Oh, okay. If there's anything you need to call Ling Er, master. Ling Er looked at Tang Zhang and blinked her large watery eyes before retreating back into the room as if a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Where did he go to kidnap such a beautiful girl? Shi Mengqin could not help but admit that Ling Er was truly beautiful. Moreover, she had a spiritual aura about her. He didn't kidnap her. It's a long story, but it's not what you think it is. Feng Shishir could not explain, so she directly said. Seeing her daughter so protective of Tang Zhang and that the other party was not what she thought it was, Shi Mingqin's anger gradually subsided as she said, Shishir, you returned to ordinary balance, so why didn't you go home? Why did you run over to his house? What kind of scandal is this? Isn't this just letting others poke at your backbone and gossip about you? This was my suggestion. This way I can protect Shishir. Tang Zheng rushed to say. You're saying that Shishir will be in danger? Feng Chonghua and Shi Mingqin's expressions changed at the same time. Previously, they thought that Tang Zheng had already resolved the crisis and that their daughter would not be in danger, but it turned out that was not the case. Shi Mingqin flipped out and asked, Tang Zheng, what did you do? Not only did you implicate our family's business, you even affected our daughter's life. Auntie, I also did not want to do this, but you can rest assured that I will not let anyone harm Shishir. Did you guarantee it? I know you are very powerful, but do you think the other party is a freeloader? A few days ago, you caused such a huge commotion in Chongqing City, so don't think that we don't know that it was you. You are a single person, while the other side is an organization and a country. Can you beat them? They are not as strong as you say, and I am also not as weak as you think. Shishir is my woman, so I will protect her. This is my responsibility and obligation. Tang Zheng said resolutely. You are too arrogant. Mom, can't you speak less? Feng Shishir angrily stamped her feet. If I spoke less, you would have believed that your life would be in danger. This won't do, you must come back with me. I don't care who the other party is. Tang Zheng, let me tell you, you must solve this problem. If something really happens to Shishir, even if I become a ghost, I will not let you go. Shi Mengqin was truly anxious. Dad, you should persuade Mom that it is not as serious as she says. Tang Zheng is very powerful and can solve this problem. Feng Shishir anxiously said. Feng Chonghua was indifferent as he could not help but re-evaluate his daughter's boyfriend. Was he really suitable for his daughter? He did not care about his own business, but what he cared about the most was his daughter's safety. If Tang Zheng really threatened his daughter's safety, then he did not mind breaking them up. Tang Zheng, we will protect our daughter. In this period of time, don't come looking for her. Wait until you have solved this problem. Feng Chonghua said in a deep voice. Dad, you can't do this. You can't break me and Tang Zheng apart. I'm not trying to break you two apart, but I'm testing his ability and sense of responsibility as a man. If a man can't protect his own woman and talk about love, then this kind of person is a coward. I, Feng Chonghua, will never marry such a coward. Feng Chonghua righteously expressed his stance. He is not a coward. He is a hero with an indomitable spirit. Feng Shishir retorted. Then prove it to everyone. Tang Zheng was not in a rush to express his opinion as he mulled over these words. He had to admit that as a mature man, Feng Chonghua's words were not wrong. If a man cannot protect his own woman, then he was no different from a coward. Moreover, the current situation was special and he had to deal with Xing Feng, so he could not let Shishir take the risk and travel with him. Instead, letting him stay by his parents' side was perhaps the smallest goal and would be safer. Uncle, I agree with what you said. I will prove to you that I am a man with an indomitable spirit. You can bring Shishir back, but you must protect her. Tang Zheng said. No. Feng Shishir immediately retorted. Shishir, listen to me. Tang Zheng advised. I want to face the difficulties with you. Tang Zheng smiled and rubbed her hair and said, Believe me, I can solve these problems. You must have confidence in me. Seeing Tang Zheng's resolute eyes, Feng Shishir knew that he had already made up his mind. There was no point in saying anything more, so she compromised. Feng Chonghua and Shi Mengqin looked at each other and could not help but sigh. Their daughter had grown up and did not listen to them but listened to Tang Zheng. As parents, they could not help but feel a sense of helplessness. Dong dong. Chapter 522. It was an unfamiliar woman's voice. Shi Mengqin suspiciously looked at Tang Zhang as if she was saying, "Could it be that you've been flirting with women again?" Tang Zhang acted as if he did not see anything as his eyes turned cold and he became alert. He had just returned to ordinary balance and someone had already come knocking on his door. The other party was definitely not an ordinary person. When he opened the door, he saw an unfamiliar yet beautiful face. This face was still charming and he could imagine how beautiful she was when she was young. Tang Zhang was indifferent as he cautiously asked, "Who are you?" When the person saw Tang Zhang, her expression immediately became excited as she stared at him and asked, "You are Tang Zhang?" "Yes, what do you want?" "You have a jade pendant with the word Marshal carved on it. Can you let me see it?" The other party carefully asked. Tang Zhang was shocked and said, "Who exactly are you?" "I am." The other party was startled. "I have no enmity towards you. Can you first give me the jade pendant?" "I'm sorry, you found the wrong person. I don't have any jade pendant." Seeing the other party's fervent gaze, Tang Zhang gradually realized something and directly refused, preparing to close the door. But a hand suddenly stretched out from behind the other party and blocked the door. Unhappily said, "Tang Zhang, don't be so rude." Marshal walked out and angrily looked at Tang Zhang. When Tang Zhang saw Marshal, his expression became even more tense. "Marshal, how many times have I told you that I will not go to the Marshal organization? Don't waste your time." Marshal wanted to refute but Lan Yu took the initiative and waved his hand, indicating that it was fine. He faintly smiled and said, "Tang Zhang, we have no enmity towards you. Please be at ease." "I don't care if you have enmity or not. I have no relationship with you so please do not disturb my life." With a bang, Tang Zhang fiercely closed the door. The three members of the Feng family looked at him suspiciously, especially Feng Shishir who knew Tang Zhang better. She knew that he would never lose his temper for no reason, so she asked with concern, "What's wrong?" Tang Zhang reluctantly squeezed out a smile and said, "It's nothing." In fact, as smart as he was, he had already guessed a few things. Wu was a proud person. He could guess who the person who made her so obedient was if he used his brain a little. She was definitely one of the upper echelons of the martial arts organization, or even the wife of the martial arts organization's sect master. In other words, she could be his biological mother. No matter who she was, Tang Zhang had no interest in her. In the past, he had this attitude in front of the sect master of the martial sect. Therefore, he had the same attitude in front of this person. Shi Mengqin rolled her eyes and bluntly said, "It can't be a woman you provoked outside, right? She seems to be quite a bit older than you." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Feng Shishir pouted and complained anxiously. "Shishir, come in with me. I have something to give you." Tang Zhang ignored Shi Mengqin's teasing and held Feng Shishir's hand as they entered the bedroom. Even Ling was invited out. Shi Mengqin and Feng Chonghua stared with wide eyes. After hesitating for a while, Shi Mengqin indignantly said, "What is he trying to do? Is he trying to do something bad in front of us?" Feng Chonggua's face sunk as he reprimanded, "Don't talk nonsense. You are a mother. How can you talk about your own daughter like that? Just wait." Inside the bedroom, Feng Shishir curiously looked at Tang Zhang and asked, "What's the matter?" Tang Zhang squeezed out a smile and said, "Yesterday at the mall, didn't I say that I wanted to give you a present? Did you forget?" Feng Shishir happily opened her eyes wide and said, "Of course I didn't forget. Could it be that there really is a present?" She thought that Tang Zhang was joking so she didn't pay much attention to it. "Dang dang dang. Look, what is this?" Tang Zhang waved his hand as if he was presenting a treasure. A purple ancient dress appeared in the air, quietly floating in the air. It was mysterious and alluring. "What is this?" "It is called the Golden Jade Purple Robe. It is a defensive treasure. I accidentally bought it at an auction, and it is a gift for you," Tang Zhang said as if he was asking for credit. "This is too precious." Feng Shishir was incomparably surprised but she knew that this golden jade purple robe was priceless. In reality, this golden jade purple robe was bought by Yen Luyun as a favor so he didn't spend a single cent. "Compared to you, this golden jade purple robe is worthless. You are the most important to me," Tang Zhang said emotionally. He clearly saw that Feng Shishir's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. In the future, With this golden jade purple robe to protect you, I will be more at ease. Feng Shishir was really moved. Not only because this gift was priceless, but also because Tang Zheng always thought of her and missed her. This was the most important thing. Feng Shishir was unable to restrain her emotions. She threw herself into Tang Zheng's arms and took the initiative to give him a kiss. She didn't care about her parents who were just a wall away. After a long time, their lips reluctantly separated, but they still held each other tightly. Their two hearts were inseparably stuck together. "You are too good to me," Feng Shishir said infatuatedly. Tang Zheng smiled and stroked her cheeks and said, "I should be good to you. You are my girlfriend. If I don't treat you well, who else should I treat well?" Although these words were ordinary, in Feng Shishir's ears, they were extremely moving words of love. Her heart was about to melt. "You are too good at sweet-talking. Which girl can resist? However, I like to hear it. In the future, you have to say it to me more." Feng Shishir's little girl mentality was triggered. "Okay, I promise you. In the future, I will say it to you more. As long as you don't think it's too corny. When we are alone, it's not corny. I like to hear it. Try it on first. It must be very beautiful." Feng Shishir gently nodded. In front of Tang Zheng, she began to undress. If it was before, she would be too embarrassed to do this in broad daylight. Unless Tang Zheng used force. But at this very moment, she was willing to do anything for him. Piece after piece of clothing fell. Traces of white and delicate skin were exposed to the air. It added a trace of spring to the cold winter. Her body was like a peerless work of art. When it was displayed in front of Tang Zheng, it was beautiful and moving. Tang Zheng stared without blinking. There was not a trace of improper thoughts in his eyes. There was only deep love. "So beautiful," he praised from the bottom of his heart. Feng Shishir faintly smiled. She stuck out her chest as if she wanted him to see more clearly. Then she gently said, "Help me put it on." The golden jade purple robe was an ancient costume. It took a lot of effort to put it on. When it was properly put on, Feng Shishir's body had a trace of spiritual energy. She was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. "So beautiful," Tang Zheng sincerely praised. "Try to circulate your true qi and pour it into the golden jade purple robe." Feng Shishir knew that this was to activate the golden jade purple robe. She did as she was told. Traces of true qi slowly poured into the golden jade purple robe. Shwa! A purple light suddenly burst out, dyeing the entire room into a purple sea. Feng Shishir was wrapped in the purple light. She slowly flew up until she was suspended in the air. She was especially mysterious and noble, like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Not long after, the golden jade purple robe gradually disappeared from the surface of her body. The purple light disappeared. Finally, the golden jade purple robe completely disappeared. It was as if it had never appeared. Feng Shishir safely landed on the ground. She was once again naked. She could not help but look at her own body in surprise. It was still smooth and delicate, like mutton fat jade. "Where's the golden jade purple robe?" she asked, dumbfounded. Tang Zheng faintly smiled. "It's already hidden on the surface of your body. You can wear other clothes as usual. It's only a layer of protection. It won't affect your daily life." "Wow, that's really too amazing. Then wouldn't I be invulnerable? Normal weapons can't hurt you. Why don't you try?" Feng Shishir picked up a pair of scissors and nervously asked, "Will there really be no problem?" Tang Zheng nodded his head and gave her an encouraging look. Feng Shishir clenched her teeth and fiercely stabbed the scissors into her arm. There was no blood. The scissors stopped on the surface of her skin. No matter how hard she tried, it was as if there was an invisible barrier blocking it. "Wow, it really works!" Feng Shishir cheered. Tang Zheng also gave a gratified smile. Feng Shishir loudly shouted and directly threw herself into Tang Zheng's embrace. Her naked body intimately came into contact with Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's head shook. He could not help but feel restless. His claws moved from her waist, preparing to attack her. Feng Shishir's face was red. She bit her lips and allowed him to take advantage of her. Dong dong. Suddenly, the door was heavily knocked on. "Tang Zheng, Shishir, What are you two doing in there? Hurry up and come out. Xi Mengqin saw that the two had not come out and directly came knocking on the door. Feng Shishir was like a little deer that had been caught red-handed. She jumped out of Tang Zheng's embrace and bashfully replied, "Mom, don't knock anymore. We'll come out soon." Hurriedly putting on his clothes, Tang Zheng crossed his arms and enjoyed the beautiful scenery. Feng Shishir dressed neatly and hurriedly opened the door. Her face was red like a ripe apple. Xi Mengqin fiercely glared at Tang Zheng, wishing she could swallow him whole. Seeing her daughter's expression, the two were definitely not doing anything good. This Tang Zheng's guts were simply too big. "What are you two doing?" "Nothing," Feng Shishir guiltily said. Xi Mengqin coldly snorted and pulled Feng Shishir out of the room. "Come, let's go home." Feng Shishir secretly stuck out her tongue at Tang Zheng and made a helpless face as she was pulled to the door. Creak. The door opened and Xi Mengqin lifted her leg to walk out. However, she was blocked by two people. She could not help but wrinkle her eyebrows and said, "What are you doing? Don't block the way." "Impudent, how can you say that?" Marshall was helpless against Tang Zheng, but he could not tolerate other people's attitude towards his master's wife. Xi Mengqin was frightened and unconsciously took a step back. The other party's aura was simply too strong. Lan Yu acted as if she did not hear anything and only stared blankly at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's face was expressionless but his heart was incomparably fretful. He unhappily said, "Didn't I tell you? We have nothing to talk about, so don't disturb me." Chapter 523. The three members of the Feng clan looked at Tang Zheng and Lan Yu strangely, especially Feng Chonghua, who was experienced and knowledgeable. He had seen too many powerful auras, but they could not be compared to this woman. Even though she was not overbearing and only looked at Tang Zheng with resentment, the aura emitted from her body made others not dare to approach her. They could not help but feel a sense of insignificance, as if they were ants facing an elephant. He could not help but be curious about the other party's identity. Why did she have such a strange relationship with Tang Zheng? Lan Yu looked at Tang Zheng without blinking and gently advised, "Tang Zheng, don't tell me you don't want to know about your background? Don't you want to know about your birth parents? In fact, they have always missed their son. My surname is Tang. I was raised by my grandfather. It has nothing to do with anyone else," Tang Zheng resolutely said. The pain and guilt between Lan Yu's brows became even more intense. Although she had not seen the jade pendant, from the reactions of Marshall and Tang Zheng, she was almost certain that Tang Zheng was her son. Any mother who heard such resolute words would be heartbroken. But she did not blame Tang Zheng because everything was their fault. Tang Zheng's resentment was a matter of course. The three members of the Feng clan looked at each other in shock. As long as one was not an idiot, they would be able to guess the possibilities from this conversation. Especially since they knew that Tang Zheng was an orphan that Tang Dahai picked up from the trash. Could it be that this imposing woman was Tang Zheng's family? Or even his birth mother? This woman's position is definitely not simple. Tang Zheng is her son, so his identity is not simple either. He is not an orphan, but the young master of a large power. Xi Mengqin's expression was somewhat awkward. The feeling of superiority she had when facing Tang Zheng had completely disappeared. Although Tang Zheng's strength was not weak, Xi Mengqin still felt a sense of superiority towards him. She believed that he was born as a poor brat and could not be compared to her precious daughter. But now, she realized that Tang Zheng's birth might be even nobler than hers. She could not help but feel all sorts of feelings welling up in her heart. Feng Chonghua didn't have such power, but he couldn't help but view Tang Zheng in a new light. On the contrary, Feng Shishir was the most innocent. She knew how hard Tang Zheng's childhood was. She couldn't imagine a childhood without the love of his parents. Therefore, at this moment when she saw that Tang Zheng might be able to find his biological parents, her heart moved and she advised, "Tang Zheng, if there's anything you want to say, let's sit down and talk about it slowly." Feng Shishir waved her hand expressionlessly. "Shishir, don't worry about this. You guys go home first." Seeing Tang Zheng stubbornly insist, Feng Shishir helplessly sighed and left with her parents. However, Xi Mengqin turned her head back 3 times as if she wanted to imprint Lan Yu's appearance in her mind. Tang Zheng was worried that his grandfather would come back from buying groceries, so he unceremoniously asked them to leave. You too, if you have nothing else to say, please leave. My family does not welcome you.
Tang Zhang you.
Marshall was indignant, but before he could finish, he was stopped by his master's wife. Lan Yu forced out a lonely smile and said, I know it is hard for you to accept this matter. I can understand your feelings. During this period of time, I will be in ordinary balance. You can come find me any time. This is the hotel we are staying at. Lan Yu handed over a piece of paper with the name of the hotel and a phone number written on it. It was obviously her phone number. In order to send the two of them away, Tang Zhang casually took it and closed the door without hesitation. Lan Yu took a deep look at the door and helplessly shook his head. He went downstairs in a daze and coincidentally missed Tang Dehai, who had just returned from buying groceries. Standing downstairs, Lan Yu looked up at the tall building and muttered to himself, What exactly do I have to do to dispel his anger? Marshall said indignantly, Mistress, you're really letting him do as he pleases. With our strength, we can easily snatch the jade pendant away. So what if I snatch the jade pendant away? What I want is not the jade pendant, but my son. Marshall was speechless. That jade pendant was only used to confirm Tang Zheng's identity, but looking at Mistress's attitude today, it was clear that she had already recognized Tang Zheng. In the past, Marshall was only guessing, but he didn't expect Mistress to be so certain. After thinking for a moment, he said, Mistress, maybe I was wrong. He's not your child at all. Lan Yu retracted his gaze and looked meaningfully at Wu, saying, Wu, you are still too young. You have never had a child before, so you don't know the feeling of a mother and son's heart being connected. Although this is the first time I've met him, and we haven't even exchanged a few words, I can already feel that he is my child. There's no mistake about it.
Really?
Marshall found it hard to believe. This kind of statement was too profound. Wasn't DNA testing popular now? Just relying on the jade pendant to determine it was indeed too arbitrary. However, Lan Yu's feelings were clearly different. It was as if as a mother, she could feel other feelings that Marshall was unable to fathom. Marshall, what do you think I should do? Lan Yu asked. Marshall shook her head helplessly. If she had followed her thoughts and directly kidnapped Tang Zheng, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. That girl just now was his girlfriend, right? Lan Yu suddenly asked. Marshall was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, her name is Fang Shishir. She is a classmate of Tang Zheng and is also a lover. He seems to care a lot about her attitude. Lan Yu had an idea. Let's go find this girl. Not long after the three of them returned home, Lan Yu knocked on the Fang family's door. When Shi Mengqin saw the two people at the door, she couldn't help but be stunned. After a while, she asked in bewilderment, May I know what business do the two of you have? Lan Yu revealed a smile. This smile seemed to be able to melt the ice and snow of winter, causing people to feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. I'm looking for Fang Shishir, Lan Yu said gently. Shi Mengqin looked at the other party in astonishment, not knowing what the other party was up to. If it was a normal person, she would have already chased them away, but facing Lan Yu, she couldn't muster up the courage to chase her away. Like a defeated general, she helplessly welcomed the other party into the room. When Fang Chonghua and Fang Shishir saw the two of them, they couldn't hide their surprise and politely invited them to take a seat. Fang Chonghua carefully asked, What business do the two of you have with my daughter? I want to ask her to advise Tang Zheng. Lan Yu went straight to the point. Advise him on what? Fang Chonghua asked knowingly, wanting to confirm his guess. Lan Yu took a deep breath and prepared to reveal the truth. Since she was asking for help, if she didn't tell the truth, it would be more troublesome and have the opposite effect. I am Tang Zheng's birth mother. That year, after giving birth to him, due to some external factors, he was abandoned. It was only recently that I found out that he was still alive in this world, so I immediately rushed over to meet him. However, his misunderstanding of me is too deep, so I want to ask Fang Shishir to help persuade him and let us mother and son acknowledge each other. The three of them from the Fang family all stared with their eyes wide open. Even though their guess was confirmed, the three of them were still shocked. Tang Zheng's true identity was actually not simple. This was something they never would have thought of. Shi Mengqin's expression was embarrassed and somewhat unnatural. Of course, her pride and superiority didn't exist, causing her to be at a loss for what to do. Fang Shishir, on the other hand, was much simpler as she said, Ever since I met Tang Zhang, he has never mentioned his birth parents. Ever since he was young, he and his grandfather relied on each other for survival. In the past, he suffered quite a bit. When he was in school, he was bullied by his classmates and teachers. Because of this, he learned to be strong and protect his family and loved ones. He simply doesn't care about his own identity. For someone like you to suddenly barge into his life, it is indeed very difficult for you to succeed. Fang Shishir undoubtedly understood Tang Zhang very well and hit the nail on the head. I also know that this is all my fault, but the situation back then was too complicated. It can't be explained in just a few words. I don't ask for his forgiveness and only hope that we can get along like normal friends, so that he can accept me bit by bit. Lan Yu said. Fang Shishir shook her head. This is truly very difficult. In his life, even in his heart, he has already gotten used to not having your existence. He even somewhat hates you, so how could he accept you? The grief on Lan Yu's face became even stronger as she turned her gaze toward Ximengqin and said, "This big sister, you are also a mother, so you should be able to understand my feelings. My own flesh and blood is right in front of me, yet I am unable to recognize him and am even treated as an enemy. This kind of feeling is truly worse than death. I also don't have extravagant hopes that he will immediately forgive me. I just want him to give me a chance." Seeing the high and mighty Lan Yu speaking so humbly, Ximengqin did not feel pleased but instead nodded in fear and trepidation. A mother and child are connected by heart. This kind of feeling, how could us mothers not understand? AI. Fang Chonghua had been silent the entire time but suddenly said to his daughter, Sure, in reality, if Tang Zhang is able to recognize his birth mother, then this is also a good thing for him. Perhaps it will be difficult for him to accept it, but in the end, parents are still parents. Dad, although I understand this reasoning, this matter may not necessarily make sense. Fang Shishir said. Is there really no hope for me? Lan Yu was in a daze. Marshall had never seen her master's wife like this before and felt extremely pained. She really wanted to fiercely beat Tang Zhang up, but right now, she was not Tang Zhang's opponent, so she could only think about it. Fang Shishir pondered for a moment and said, If there really is a glimmer of hope, then there is only one person who can do it. Who? His grandfather. He and his grandfather depend on each other for survival. Grandfather is the most important person in his life, and he listens to his grandfather the most. If his grandfather wants him to recognize you, then he definitely will not disobey. In reality, Fang Shishir felt pity for Lan Yu. As a woman, although she did not have a child, she could roughly imagine Lan Yu's pain. Moreover, she also knew that ever since he was young, Tang Zhang wished to have a normal family and have parents to love him. Although these feelings gradually faded, in reality, they were always buried deep in his heart. If he really did have parents to love him, then in the end, it would definitely be a good thing for him and he would be able to fulfill his wish. His grandfather? Lan Yu was bewildered. Would he do that? After all, Tang Zhang is his grandson who depends on each other for survival. Would he let others take him away? First of all, I want to make one point clear. No one can take Tang Zhang away from his grandfather. Grandfather's position in his heart is unique. But grandfather is truly a kind-hearted person. He definitely wants to see Tang Zhang reunite with his family. Fang Shishir said. Chapter 524. After Tang Zhang sent Lan Yu and Wu away, his grandfather went home. The old man also complained about why Tang Zhang did not keep the guests for dinner. Tang Zhang explained a few words, had breakfast, and was ready to go out. The old man was also a restless character. During his absence, the recycle bin almost stagnated, and his old companion's income sharply decreased. He was very worried, so he was ready to go to the recycle bin. Tang Zhang asked Wu and Gue Qiansui to protect his grandfather, so there was a strange scene on the street. A big turtle with a small dog-like animal lying on its back followed an old man through the streets. Many people were amazed. They had seen people walking dogs and cats, but this was the first time they saw people walking a turtle. Fortunately, the old man's heart was a lot stronger than before. He did not care about the strange eyes around him, and quickly walked to the recycle bin. Gue Qiansui's speed was not slow, and followed step by step. Xiaobai was still a fat boy, lying on Gue Chensue's back without moving. For Xiao Bai's change, Tang Zhang could not figure it out. This little guy was not like other demon beasts that could speak. What changes would there be? He could only wait and see. Ling Er followed Tang Zhang closely, which attracted a lot of people's attention. When the two came to an office building, many white-collar workers frequently glanced at Ling Er. However, Ling Er only had Tang Zhang in her heart, and did not care about others. This made these white-collar workers, who claimed to be experts in picking up girls, feel frustrated. Pushing open the door of an office, the fierce discussion in the room came to an abrupt end. They all turned to look at Tang Zheng. "Young Master Tang." Several people shouted in unison. Tang Zheng nodded to several people. Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix's eyebrows were full of excitement. These two old brothers and sisters had experienced a lot of storms, but at this moment they could not help but feel excited. This was because Tang Zheng had already said that they were going to play a big game this time, so that those rascals would not dare to provoke them easily. In the past, Tang Zheng was considered a tycoon, but the situation he created was too small. It was no wonder that others ignored him. Even if he relied on selling life-continuing pills to earn billions or even tens of billions of gold coins, he still couldn't compare to the influence of the several great families. Because the money was all in his wallet, it didn't have much use. This was a principle that Tang Zheng had recently comprehended. Xing Feng had done all kinds of evil, but why didn't he dare to go to war with the other families? That was because the other families had too many properties and too many implications. This was not just because the big families were rich, but because their businesses were closely related to too many ordinary people. There were people from these families in all aspects of the country, and many people's lives were affected by these families. It was like a large factory with millions of workers. Would the country dare to touch this factory? Of course not, because once they did, it would cause problems in the lives of hundreds of people. This was an unstable factor, and could even cause the situation to become unstable. This was a consequence that Xing Feng could not bear. But to deal with Tang Zhang, there was no need to worry about this. He was only in the corner of ordinary balance. Moreover, he was inextricably linked to the underworld. To deal with him, it could even be justified in the name of fighting against the underworld. Tang Zhang had to turn this situation around. The only way was to make his business bigger and stronger, and kidnap more people onto his ship. Whether it was the current Xing Feng or the others in the future, no one would dare to act rashly. This was influence. When Tang Zhang told them this idea, Mu Hongyan was very impressed. Because this was what the big families did. For example, although the Chu family no longer had a pillar of support, it was still a big family that was difficult for ordinary people to reach. The country still would not make a move against this family. Although it was foreseeable that the Chu family would go downhill, he could still maintain his position in the short term, although his influence in front of other families would weaken a lot. After experiencing so many things, Tang Jing finally understood the essence of it. This was growth. Only by experiencing it personally could one truly understand it. Mu Hongyan was calmer than Qilin and Hua Feng. She nodded at Tang Zhang, but her eyes fell on Linger. Her eyes flashed with a touch of amazement. She thought that Tang Zhang really did not lack beautiful girls. Who was this? Lin Hu and Hua Feng also saw Linger. Hua Feng could not help but exclaim, "Wow, what a beautiful girl." Tang Zhang smiled and said, "Her name is Linger." Lin Hu looked meaningfully at Tang Zheng. He thought with an evil smile, could this be young Master Tang's close female friend? AI. Young Master Tang's luck with women was too good. This would make all the men in the world jealous. Tang Zheng, we have discussed a bit. Based on your opinion, we have made a detailed plan. In fact, this plan is a further refinement and improvement of the previous plan. According to what you said, our previous plan is still too small. We must aim to be number one. Mu Hongyan understood Tang Zheng's intention and said meticulously. Tang Zheng nodded with appreciation. I am most relieved when Big Sister Mu is handling things. Although we have encountered the biggest crisis not long ago, the phoenix will shine brighter after its nirvana. Our business empire is the same. Then what if the Dragon Group people come to make trouble? In the next few days, I will take care of this matter and completely eliminate the annoying flies from the Dragon Group. Tang Zheng said in high spirits. The others did not doubt whether he could do it or not. This was because they had absolute confidence in Tang Zheng. This time we must advance in many ways. Moreover, we must expand our business empire as fast as possible. Tang Zheng said. The fastest way to see results is to acquire the existing assets. This is much faster than us starting from scratch. Mu Hongyan analyzed. I agree. I saw that there are 3 directions in the plan: real estate, clubhouse, and hotel. The layout of each direction is a little bigger. This is very good. This is also the area that everyone is familiar with. But I am prepared to add 2 more directions on this basis. Tang Zheng said while holding out 2 fingers. Mu Hongyan looked at him curiously. She knew that Tang Zheng's personal strength was very strong. However, his talent and ability in business was indeed average. He had never systematically studied the relevant knowledge and was used to being a shopkeeper. Therefore, she was very curious about what insights Tang Zheng would come up with. One of them is the entertainment industry. Tang Zheng lightly said. Entertainment industry? The other 3 were a little curious. Lin, who suspiciously said, Young Master Tang, you want to enter the entertainment industry? Tang Zheng nodded. This is a very profitable industry. Moreover, it is closely related to the people's spiritual life. Now that people have money, their pursuit of spiritual life is naturally higher. Therefore, whether it is a movie or a variety show, it will be very profitable. Looking at the soaring box office, there were many poorly made movies that had hundreds of millions or even billions. This was simply robbing money. It was even more profitable than him selling the life-continuing pill. Moreover, this was a sustainable way to make money. Refining the life-continuing pill required all kinds of mysterious herbs. If any of the herbs were missing, then the life-continuing pill could not be refined. Mu Hongyan thought for a while and nodded approvingly. This direction is not bad. Although the entertainment industry is very chaotic, the speed of making money is much faster than other physical industries. It's just that we are not too familiar with this industry, so we still need to recruit professionals. Tang Zheng took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to Mu Hongyan. This person is in the entertainment industry. You can contact him. AI Me. I've heard of this name before. A few years ago he was a gold medal manager. He made many artists famous, but later he offended people and was almost marginalized by the entertainment industry. He did not have any artists in his hands. Mu Hongyan looked at the business card in astonishment. Oh, this damn sissy actually lied to me. He said he was very powerful. So he was actually someone who was marginalized by the entertainment industry. Tang Zheng hatefully said. This sissy bragged too much. AI Me is indeed very capable. He entered the entertainment industry when he was only 10 years old. In just a few short years he became famous. If there are no accidents, he will certainly become the most powerful gold medal manager in Wuxia. Mu Hongyan asserted. Hee, I rarely hear you praise someone like this. The entertainment industry and various rich people's lives have a lot of intersection, so I know a little about it. AI Me's incident was quite big and many people in the industry know about it. The main reason I praise him like this is because his attitude towards the artists in his hands is admirable. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, did not see anything worthy of admiration about the sissy. He takes very good care of the artists in his hands. There was once a very powerful person who wanted to use the unspoken rules on one of his artists. He slapped the other party in front of everyone. The other party was not harsh and finally used all kinds of methods to suppress him. That's why he was in such a miserable state. Hey, you really can't judge a book by its cover. I didn't expect this sissy to be so manly. Tang Zheng was quite surprised. After all, the entertainment industry was in a mess. Many stars were just high-class prostitutes. As long as you have money and power, sleeping with others is a common occurrence. This is also the reason why there have been so many scandals in the entertainment industry in recent years. AI Me actually went against the trend. This really requires extraordinary courage. If that's the case, then I really did pick up a treasure. Let's dig him up. Tang Zheng made his decision. In fact, the reason he chose to enter the entertainment industry was because of Ling Er. Since she wants to sing and be a star, then let her be. If she signs with other companies she will definitely be wronged. Then I'll make my own company and play according to my own rules. This way I won't be restricted by others. Since AI Me has such a bottom line, Then in the future letting him take care of Ling Er, Tang Zhang will also be relieved. If any blind person thinks he has some stinky money and wants to use the unspoken rules on Ling Er, then Tang Zhang will definitely not be lenient and beat him until even his mother can't recognize him. Chapter 525. Mu Hongyan and the others looked at Ling Er in shock, not knowing what kind of relationship she had with Tang Zhang for him to spend so much effort to make her popular. But, just based on her appearance, she definitely had the potential to be a star. Nowadays, there were still a few stars that walked the path of a jade girl, but Ling Er did not need any packaging. She was a fairy sister. Ling Er covered her small mouth and looked at Tang Zhang in surprise, saying, "Master, you want me to be a star? Then Ling Er can sing, right?" Obviously, she had a soft spot for singing and could not forget it. "Master?" When the three heard this name, they looked at Tang Zhang strangely. He knew what the other party was thinking, so he awkwardly coughed and said, "Don't think too much, Ling Er is my little sister." Little sister. Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix looked at each other and thought in their hearts, "Master, Ling Er is your servant. How could I have the qualifications to be your little sister?" Ling Er said seriously. When Tang Zhang heard this, he deliberately put on a straight face and said, "Don't talk nonsense, from now on you are my little sister, don't tell me you won't listen to me?" Ling Er shook her head like a rattle drum. "Ling Er does not dare." "Then it's decided, from now on you will have the same surname as me, Ling Er." This name sounds pretty good. Tang Zhang did not give the other party a chance to refuse. Ling Er's eyes lit up, nodding her head like she was pounding garlic and said, "The name Master gave is really good. From now on don't call me Master. Call me Big Brother, got it?" Tang Zhang did not want others to think of him as a pervert, letting such a beautiful girl call him Master. Anyone who heard this would think that there was something wrong with him. At this moment, the other three's expressions were probably the same, but they were definitely worried about his feelings and did not say it out loud. Tang Zhang also had no way to explain. As time passed, they would naturally dispel their wild guesses. "Brother," Ling Er cried out happily. In the future, Ling Er will definitely serve Big Brother with all her heart. Hearing the word serve, the three people's expressions became even stranger. They were even more convinced that there was something going on between the two of them. Tang Zhang rolled his eyes helplessly and continued, "Finally, the other direction is medicine." Mu Hongyan recalled the miraculous effects of the life-continuing pill, and her expression became excited. There was no doubt that Tang Zhang had an innate advantage when it came to this industry. Moreover, after this industry became bigger and stronger, it would have a greater influence than other industries because this was a matter of life and death. Therefore, Mu Hongyan was not stingy with her praise. "That's a great idea." Tang Zhang also laughed and said, "However, in this aspect, we need a medical professional to be a consultant." Mu Hongyan laughed and said, "Aren't you one? You can be considered a saint of apricot woods. You're much better than many so-called famous doctors." "Haha, you're overpraising me. I can't even be considered half a bucket of water." Tang Zhang knew his own limits. He might be able to find some pill recipes, but these things could not be mass-produced. Just like the life-continuing pill, if it was mass-produced, then it would not be worth much and would cause chaos in society. Moreover, this thing could not be mass-produced. Mu Hongyan looked at him suspiciously. She did not understand why he was so modest. "I found a consultant who is thousands of times better than me. In this world, there is someone who is thousands of times better than you in the field of medicine." Mu Hongyan did not believe it. "The king of medicine." Tang Zhang revealed the answer. Although the king of medicine was his disciple, in his heart, the king of medicine was much better than his master in the field of medicine. He had more right to speak. Mu Hongyan said excitedly, "Senior king of medicine? Would he be willing? I heard that many pharmaceutical companies and large hospitals want to invite the king of medicine, but he rejected them all." Tang Zhang was full of confidence. "You'll know when the time comes, but I'll need you to do the specific preparations." Mu Hongyan was full of confidence. With the support of such a powerful consultant, what reason would there be for failure? "Don't worry, but with such a big mess all of a sudden, your money is only enough for the initial investment. You'll definitely need more money later." "Don't worry, money is not a problem." "Then there's no problem. In addition, since we want to be big and strong, then we can't choose the location of our headquarters in ordinary balance. Mu Hongyan said. Ordinary balance was not even a third-tier city, so it was impossible to choose the location of such a large business empire's headquarters. Tang Zhang thought for a moment and said, "Then where should we go?"
Beijing.
It's the economic, political, and cultural center. Only in Beijing can we expand our influence. Tang Zheng nodded his head. Okay. But Beijing is a mixed bag of crooks and dragons, and there are many local tyrants. It's also a place where many powers gather, so the difficulties we'll face will be greater. Mu Hongyan said truthfully. We're not afraid of difficulties, but we need to have the courage and boldness to face them head-on. Tang Zhang said fearlessly as he waved his fist. Mu Hongyan looked at him approvingly. She thought that this boy was maturing little by little. She didn't know how far he could go in the future, but she really looked forward to it. Tang Zhang left the office and left Linger behind, because Mu Hongyan had already contacted AI Me to discuss the packaging of Linger. Tang Zhang walked alone on the street, looking at the bustling crowd. He was very familiar with this city that he had lived in for nearly 20 years, and he also had a lot of feelings for it. Since he wanted to become big and strong, then he couldn't treat this city unfairly. In the future, he would definitely prioritize ordinary balance. For example, some of the medical production bases would be placed in ordinary balance. This could also be considered as giving back to the city. Unknowingly, he arrived at Pengcheng International School. The school was already on winter break, so the school was empty. Standing at the school gate, looking at the silent school, he somewhat missed his high school life. Although he had only been away for half a year, too many things had happened during this time. More than anything he had experienced before. Crazy woman, why are you still bothering us? Didn't we already give you living expenses this month? How much more do you want? A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Suddenly, an angry shout rang out, interrupting Tang Zheng's thoughts. He subconsciously turned his head and saw two young people and an old woman with messy hair standing across the street. The two young people were dressed in bright clothes, while the old woman was clearly wearing old clothes. The contrast between the two sides was very obvious. The two young people were clearly a couple or husband and wife. They were holding hands, while the young woman was arrogantly shouting at the old woman. You only give me 200 yuan a month. How can I live on it? The old woman pitifully said. 200 yuan isn't enough? Then how much more do you want? Don't tell me you want us to give you all of our salary? You are too greedy. Isn't all of this your own fault? Instead of being a good teacher, you framed your students. That's why you were expelled from school, and even your pension is gone. You have become our burden. The young woman pointed at the old woman's forehead, and impolitely reprimanded. The old woman cowered, not daring to refute. Tang Zheng finally recognized the other party. That senile old woman was actually his former class teacher, Wu Zuehong. He deeply experienced how snobbish Wu Zuehong was at that time. Even so, he didn't have much hatred for Wu Zuehong. But in the end, Wu Zuehong actually stole his college entrance exam ticket, wanting him to be unable to take the college entrance exam. This kind of vicious method thoroughly angered Tang Zheng. Thus, he used his battle spirit to scare her silly. He heard that she was directly expelled by the school. But now it seemed that her spirit had returned to normal, but her life was too poor. The young couple was his son and daughter-in-law. Tang Zheng had seen them come to school before. It seemed that she was disliked by her son and daughter-in-law. Husband, let's go. Don't pay attention to her. Having this kind of mother is really too embarrassing. The young woman grabbed her husband's hand and walked away. From beginning to end, the man didn't say a word. Wu Zuehong was in a daze, but there was nothing she could do. She went to the trash can and finally found 2 mineral water bottles. She tightly held them in her hand and then went to look for the next trash can. Tang Zheng silently watched. The other party obviously didn't see him, and Tang Zheng didn't feel sad or happy. He didn't feel relieved because Wu Hongzue was not worthy of his anger or hatred. She was an insignificant person. If he hadn't met her today, Tang Zheng probably wouldn't have remembered her. Of course, he wouldn't pity her. A pitiful person must have a hateful side. All of this was her own fault. If she hadn't treated Tang Zheng like that, she wouldn't have fallen to this point. She was so tough in school, but the son she taught was like a soft egg. He actually treated his own mother like this. What an unfilial son. Tang Zheng muttered to himself, but was suddenly startled because he remembered the face at the door this morning. If Wu Cuihong's son was an unfilial son, then what was he? He guiltily shook his head and comforted himself. My situation is different from his. Even if they really are my parents, they abandoned me and didn't fulfill their responsibilities as parents. What qualifications do they have to redeem everything? But looking at the other party's attitude, it seemed like they wouldn't give up until they won back Tang Zheng's heart. What should he do? What's troubling you so much that you're frowning so much? Suddenly, a person walked over and asked curiously. Tang Zheng suddenly raised his head and saw a familiar person. Why are you here? Su Yingtian said with a smile. You caused such a big commotion at the base. If I didn't come, would the dragon group come to find you first? It's good that they came. I was worried that Xing Feng wouldn't appear. Tang Zheng hatefully said. Xing Feng has already been scared to death by you. Right now he's hiding in the capital with layers of guards around him. It won't be easy to touch him. Su Yingtian said. There's nothing in this world that is impossible. Tang Zheng disagreed. Su Yingtian shook his head. You want to assassinate him, right? Tang Zheng didn't reply, which could be considered a tacit agreement. Chapter 526. Tang Zheng's face was expressionless, but his heart was moved. Su Yingtian's words were not without reason. Xing Feng was only a puppet. If they killed him, the people behind him could push out others. It would be an endless stream, and Tang Zheng would be exhausted. Moreover, the country would not remain indifferent to assassinate an official of Xing Feng's level. That was because it was a challenge to the country's prestige. Just how powerful was the strength of the state of Qi? Tang Zheng did not want to test it out. Could it be that only he can kill me, but I can't do anything to him? Tang Zheng asked indignantly. Su Yingtian's lips curled. He knew that he had finally convinced Tang Zheng. He continued, Of course not. We have to set our sights further. What we are dealing with is not just Xing Feng, but the people behind him. As long as we completely topple his backer, he will be like a snake without its fangs pulled out. He will not be much of a threat. At that time, no matter how you deal with him, no one will say anything. Tang Zheng looked at Su Yingtian with a burning gaze. Are you trying to clear things up for him? Su Yingtian, am not that bored. I am doing this for you, not for him. An outstanding young man like you will not make such a grave mistake because of Xing Feng and ruin your future. Su Yingtian said sincerely. Oh, so kind? Tang Zheng was not a 3-year-old child. He would not believe just anyone's words, even if they had worked together before. Why is it so hard to do a little good in this world? Su Yingtian said with a bitter smile. Fine, I can temporarily not kill him, but you have to promise that he will not come looking for trouble with me. I do not want my family to be in danger at all times. Su Yingtian hesitated. If you don't agree, then there is no need for us to talk. Tang Zheng was not going to be polite with him. All right, I promise you. I'll go find Xing Feng. Even if I have to give up my reputation, I'll make you guys stop fighting for the time being. Su Yingtian gritted his teeth and agreed. Tang Zheng nodded his head in satisfaction. Although he couldn't completely get rid of Xing Feng, he could at least maintain peace for the time being. He had to focus on developing his business empire. Only when he expanded his influence, whether it was Xing Feng or any other government officials in the future, they would not dare to act rashly. This was one of his greatest trump cards. Of course, he still had to work hard to cultivate and quickly increase his cultivation. When a person's martial strength reached a certain level, it was enough to make the enemy hesitate. Tang Zheng, in truth, if you join the National Security Bureau and obtain an official identity, this is the biggest protective talisman. Whether it is for public or private reasons, there are many benefits. Su Yingtian suggested. Tang Zheng refused without hesitation. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm used to being lazy. I don't like it when others control me. Otherwise, it'll be counterproductive. Even if you haven't eaten pork, you've seen a pig run. Tang Zhang naturally understood that there were benefits to gaining an official status, but there were more restrictions and restrictions. After all, he was a cultivator. How could he be willing to be restricted by the government? Su Yingtian's eyes flashed with a trace of disappointment. The National Security Agency's door has always been open for you. Whenever you want to join, I'll welcome you with open arms. Pausing for a moment, Su Yingtian's expression became serious. Tang Zheng, you know better than me what happened in the base in the desert. So I want to know what's going on with that towering tree. Your science is so advanced. Could it be that you can't detect it? Tang Zheng asked back. Su Yingtian helplessly shook his head. Science can't solve all problems. You're a cultivator, so you should understand this point. Moreover, you've auctioned off so many life-continuing pills. This kind of heaven-defying thing, can science explain it? Tang Zheng admitted that what he said wasn't wrong. But his words reminded him of another important question. How exactly do you government officials view cultivators? Su Yingtian seemed to have already expected him to ask this question. Without thinking, he said, now is not the ancient era. Science and technology is developing and its power cannot be underestimated. Although cultivators have many mysterious things, they are not natural enemies of the country. They cannot control the life and death of anyone. Tang Zheng softly laughed. It seems like you martial artists have a much more optimistic attitude. That's natural. The majority of martial artists have a very narrow vision. They only look at their own little piece of land and don't think about the big picture. Su Yingtian happily said. Oh, what big picture? The situation of the world. Let me ask you a question first. Why was China the best developed in ancient times? Why was it the center of the world? Why was it the golden age of all countries? Su Yingtian threw out a question that was similar to history. Today's history teachers have also talked about this question many times. They believe that the Western country's science and technology developed faster and Wuxia closed up the country. Because of this, they fell behind and were passively beaten. But the answer Su Yingtian wanted was definitely not this. Tang Zheng couldn't help but bitterly think about it. Wuxia's decline began in the last dynasty. After the cultivators were expelled, Wuxia gradually declined and was even bullied by the Western countries. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at Su Yingtian. He bewilderedly said, could it be that all of this is related to the disappearance of cultivators? Su Yingtian nodded his head in praise. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Many people bitterly ponder over this question for several decades before they can understand it, but you can understand it with just a hint. Tang Zheng still felt like he was shrouded in fog and said, but I still don't understand what exactly is going on. It's very simple. Before the cultivators were expelled, they were the most powerful group in the world. Whether it was Wuxia or the West, there was no one who could contend against the cultivators. And the cultivators are a unique product of our Wuxia. They don't exist anywhere else. In addition, in ancient times, the West was a barren land. Normal people were not willing to set foot in it, and their development was very slow. These barren people greatly respected Wuxia, so they sent envoys from thousands of miles away to worship and learn from them. Many of Wuxia's technologies were learned by them. Ever since the disappearance of the cultivators, the Western countries were no longer restrained by the cultivators, so they developed rapidly and uncontrollably. Their science and technology changed with each passing day, which was why the Western powers bullied my Wuxia, causing Wuxia to suffer a history of humiliation that had never happened before. Su Yingtian sighed after he finished speaking, feeling extremely moved. Perhaps New Era never dreamed that the expulsion of the cultivators would leave behind such a huge problem, almost bringing Wuxia into a situation of eternal damnation. When Tang Zheng heard this, he was flabbergasted. These words had a huge impact on him. He had always been worried that the cultivators would carry out inhumane revenge when they returned to this world, so he had always been hesitant about whether or not he should let them return to this world. According to Su Yingtian, weren't the cultivators the gospel of this world? With the cultivators, this country could once again soar and stand at the peak of the world? If the cultivators returned to this world, wouldn't it be of great benefit to the country? Tang Zheng couldn't help but ask. Logically speaking, that should be the case. But the world is changing. After all, after so many years, we can't figure out what the cultivators have become, so we have to be cautious about this matter. Moreover, the cultivators have already been expelled. How can they return to this world? Didn't the demon god come back from the sky beyond? Tang Zheng reminded. Su Yingtian waved his hand. He did not take it to heart, and insisted, "That's just an example. It's impossible for cultivators to return on a large scale." Tang Zheng understood that the demon god could use the mountain river blood sacrifice array to summon the demon clan back, but the officials did not know about it, and Li Xiaotian did not tell the officials about it. Otherwise, Su Yingtian would not be so confident that the cultivators would not return on a large scale. Tang Zheng thought about it, but did not tell the other party this news, because words were not proof. He could not determine the true attitude of the officials towards the cultivators just based on these words. The officials were very cunning. What if Su Yingtian was just throwing a smoke bomb, and did not have good intentions towards the cultivators? They had to be careful. Actually, the martial artists are very powerful now. If there is a balance between the cultivators, it is actually good for the country. Su Yingtian added. Cultivators and martial artists are like fire and water. I'm afraid there is no chance for them to get along peacefully. Tang Zheng said. It's better to have a balance when there is a struggle. Su Yingtian did not care. Tang Zheng understood, this was the official's favorite way to balance, letting the two forces fight each other, and he would benefit from it. However, the officials miscalculated one thing. The cultivators were stronger than they thought. Whether it was martial artists or their self-proclaimed powerful technology, they might not be a match for the cultivators. Tang Zheng did not need to remind the other party. This would instead make them be on guard against the cultivators. Let's return to the main topic. What is going on with that big tree? Su Yingtian said. It is called the Tree of Life. It is said to be the origin of all living things. It can emit pure spiritual energy, improving the environment and air between heaven and earth. Tang Zheng paused for a moment, suddenly having a strange idea. He laughed involuntarily. Maybe, the haze that shrouds everywhere will gradually dissipate under the influence of the Tree of Life. Su Yingtian was slightly startled, and seriously said, "Does it really have such a miraculous effect? You must have seen the yellow sand under the Tree of Life. There is already green grass growing on it. This cannot be faked." Tang Zheng reminded. Su Yingtian sighed emotionally and said, "Let me tell you, these few days the grass is still spreading outwards. According to the experts, it will not be long before the boundless desert becomes a grassland, suitable for humans to live in." Tang Zheng cried out in surprise and said, It seems that the effect is better than I expected, so it really is not a lie to say that it will improve the air. Perhaps the Tree of Life will be able to solve the problems of the Environmental Protection Department." You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.